Mission First Tactical is the official tactical accessories provider for the Talking Lead podcast and the Leadhead Brigade. Use the code LEADHEAD for an exclusive 20% discount on all orders.
All right, Leadheads. Welcome back to the Talking Lead podcast. I am your host, Lefty. I think I started that too soon because I didn't time it right. My timing was off, Alan, but guess what? My listeners are used to that.
Got to set expectations.
That's right. Welcome back to another episode, like I said, the Talking Lead podcast, where we have been leducating the unleducated since 2012, bringing you all the information, the news, the people, the places, the things that you love to know about, whether it's firearms related or not, because a lot of times we don't talk firearms. We talk other things too. And we'll probably talk a little firearms today with my guest today, but there's going to be other things that we're going to talk about. And I'm going to introduce my guest in just a minute. But if you haven't, make sure you go back and listen to our previous episode where we had the New York Times bestselling author Brad Thor. He's got a new book out. It's called Shadow of Doubt. And we talked a little bit about that, gave a little teaser. But we got an update with Brad on and what's been going on with him, because it's been about a year since we talked to him. And he's got a TV series, movie deal in the works with his books, with the Scott Harveth character there. So that's exciting news, and hopefully that'll come to fruition, and it'll be as good as, in my opinion, the Terminal List. Are you familiar with Jack Carr, Alan?
Yes.
So we've had Jack on, and they turned his books into is it Prime? I think it was a Prime series or something, one of those. But it was good. It was a good series. I really enjoyed it. I don't know if you watch TV or not. You do so many other things, so you probably...
Yeah, I don't get to watch a lot of TV.
you probably don't even own a TV, do you?
I didn't own one for about 30 years.
Yeah?
And, I finally was forced to buy one and hang it on the wall. I had a 13-year-old that was going to be visiting me for the summer, and his mom was like, what do you think about buying a TV?
Just like, well, I really don't, but, I get to see the kid. That helps me see the kid.
Yep.
So I will introduce my guest now since he's talking, and this is his first time on the show. He's a new guy. It is Sifu Alan Baker. And Alan is an internationally recognized martial arts and self-defense expert. Did some, I don't know if you still do. You do personal protection still too?
Periodically, not on a regular. Yeah.
So I had a couple episodes back, Alan, where I had several executive protection experts on the show. Mm-hmm. And basically it was, right after, on the heels of the Trump attempted assassination, and we kind of wanted to get some professional opinions to cut through all the bullshit that the media was putting out there. And and you may know some of the guys too.
I actually watched or listened to a portion of that show.
Oh, okay. All right. Did you know any of those guys?
Some of them sounded familiar. Some of the names did. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So I've heard of a few of them in the industry.
Yeah, I'm sure you probably, being from Tennessee too. The one fellow there, you probably knew him. But yeah, that's another great episode. So if you guys haven't listened to that episode, make sure you go back, check that episode out. Lots of good information in that episode. But to continue with Alan's bona fides, he's been 4 decades now. You've been in the martial arts training, teaching, learning.
44 years.
44 years, and you don't look a day over 30. How's that possible?
All right. I think, how much do I owe you for that?
That's freebie on me, brother. You're into scuba diving, rappelling, You're an author. You've written 3 books that I know of. Have you written more than 3?
Yeah, I actually have finished 2 more. I'm waiting on a co-author on number 4. Putting something together with Joe Artura, who owns Vehicle Dynamics Institute out of New Jersey, on training, teaching professionals, and that sort of thing. And then I've got one more coming. It's actually the biggest thing I've put together, and it's on self-education and designing your own self-education process. Something I've done in my life, and I've been preaching a lot more in coaching and speaking.
Yeah. Being more self-aware and self-reliant kind of deal.
Yes. Breaking free from the system.
We want to hear more about that. And you have often been referred to as the agent of change. So we want to talk about that. You developed the Warrior's Path self-improvement program. So, I mean, I don't know where you have time to do any of this, and you probably got your iron and many other fires too that I couldn't even dig up on the internet. So, welcome into the show, Alan. I mean, you're probably one of the most accomplished guests that I've had on the show.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, it's an honor to be here.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you took the time to join us and introduce you to the Leadhead Brigade to our listeners. I know they're going to get a lot out of this. Our listeners are like us, like-minded individuals that, we believe in defending ourselves, our families, our country, our beliefs. Mm-hmm. And, your whole process not only, is physical, but it's also mental. That's what I've been getting from learning more about you is that's the biggest part of it is the mental aspect of training.
Yeah, agreed. And the philosophy behind it, the mindset, it all comes back to that warrior ethos. And I personally believe there needs to be more of them in the world, which is part of my goal is to help create more of that mindset and individuals that want to walk that path.
Well, that was going to be one of my questions on down the road, but I'll go ahead and ask it since you brought it up. Your ethos. What is Alan Baker's ethos?
Well, that's one of my main goals is training like-minded individuals, warriors. I was very fortunate to have teachers and mentors who honestly raised me, trained me, they guided me in life. And as part of that process, they taught me their belief systems and helped me, grow in that as well. And I taught a lot of it over the years in the academy. It's not always on the academy floor, but a lot of times it'll be in between classes. You'll have those moments with individuals who will be struggling with maybe some sort of moment they just had on the mat with the guy that's twice their size, twice as mean, and they're like, I'm giving up. And, that's what better moment to learn that life skill. And, and I've done that many, many times in my career, so I can speak to it. And I've watched those conversations change lives and create new paths for individuals and put them on a better horizon. So that, my ethos, so to speak, comes back to that. That's one of the reasons that I get up in the morning is to help people and try to push that mindset and grow it more in the world.
Now you've got an interesting story, and we're gonna talk about that. But while it's early in the show here, and you guys are listening, go to Alan's. He's got a website, and I've got it here. So I'm learning all my buttons here, Alan. Learning on the fly. So is that it? Is this your? Now this is your podcast. You also have a podcast, for God's sake. The Warrior's Path podcast. And I caught a few episodes of those, and I'm hooked now. They're like
great.
Short, kind of, nuggets of information that's life improving and changing, and I was digging them. So yeah, I was at the gym this week, and that's all I was listening to was your podcast. So I'm hooked now.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, man, I dig it. I dig it. Yeah, and you've got a way about you. I mean, you're very calm and peaceful. Your voice, it's kind of hypnotizing when you're listening to it. And is that just through the years of teaching and have you found that's the best way to get through to people?
It's well, the calm probably comes from years of getting smashed and kicked around by all my guys. You spend
Yeah.
4 to 8 hours a week in that environment. The rest of you walk outside the academy, it's cake. Uh, People with bad attitudes and traffic just become small things. So it helps you relax in life quite a bit.
Whiskey River Beef, farm to table with a twist. Come along with us on a quest towards achieving self-sufficiency in food production and fostering a robust local food source to promote good health. Stock up with premium Tennessee beef, unparalleled in flavor and tenderness. You can be confident that you're receiving beef with no added growth hormones or implants. Always pasture-raised, locally USDA processed, and shipped straight to your home. Whiskey River Beef is grass and whiskey mash fed and finished, and is at least 14 days dry aged to enhance the tenderness and give you the most robust flavor imaginable. Go to whiskeyriverbeef.com today to order. Visit us on Instagram at Whiskey River Life and on Facebook at Whiskey River Beef LLC. Whiskey River Beef is a proud sponsor of the Talking Lead podcast and the Leadhead Brigade.
And I want to talk more about that. And we're going to talk more about your podcast, your books, get some background information about you. But we have this segment, and I kind of prepared you for it, Alan, on the podcast, where we like to kind of vent, I guess, a little bit is what we call it. For the most part, it's a positive show. We keep it upbeat and positive, but we like to get any dirty laundry out early, So if there's anything bugging us or bothering us, we have this thing called the jackwagon train, and that's kind of where we do it there. So, Gunny, it's time to bring that train in. I don't know. Arlie Ermy, the conductor of our train, he takes care of these jackwagons.
Hoorah, Simplified, do or die, hold 'em high at 8th and I. It is time for the Talking Lead Jackwagon of the Week, so brace yourself, baby.
The train is coming in. It's coming in hot. It always comes in hot. It's on fire because we've got some jackwagons, some major jackwagons that we want to take care of. And just to kind of get you warmed up, I'll go ahead. I've got a listener jackwagon here, and we get these from time to time. So this is from Leadhead Jeff, and Jeff says, "Hey, Lefty, I would like to nominate Turkish Olympic." He's going to do a hero first. Okay, I would like to nominate the Turkish Olympic pistol shooter Yusuf Dike, Dikec, Dikic, for hero status for his silver medal win and showing the world you don't need all the latest gear and gizmos. Just good fundamentals to shoot. So I'm sure everybody's probably seen the memes that are out there of this guy. I think I've got it pulled up here somewhere. Oh no, this is my jackwagon right here. So that's the picture of the jackwagon. I'll save that one. But he's got a link here. Let's click on his link. There we go. Did that come up?
There he is.
There he is. So this guy, and you've probably seen the pictures, and that's not the picture right there, but it looks like he's just kind of casually at the range one day. He's got his hand in his back pocket, and he's just plinking away there. And apparently he got a silver medal. I'm not watching the Olympics, by the way.
Same.
I give two craps about it right now. They just turned it into a big political shit show, and I could care less about it. Unfortunate. It's very unfortunate because I used to love the Olympics, man. Used to want to be in the Olympics. Those guys that did those rings.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they always amaze me, and they're always just like hulks, you know. Their arms were ginormous.
Yep.
But this guy, great hero. I think that's it's a great point, and the way the Turks train, I guess, because the female, there's a female shooter there too, and she was doing the same style. I don't know if she won or not, but more power to him. So he goes on, and now for the jackwagon, he says. This is Jeff, Leadhead Jeff. Olympic Committee for allowing men in women's sports. And I think everybody knows what we're talking about. There was this boxing match, and it was a girls' boxing match, but there was this person that identified as a woman, and they let him box this girl and basically just almost murdered her. It was pretty sad. This is the dude here. So yes, I completely agree with that jackwagon nomination, and this person for wanting to fight a woman. Jeff goes on to say, I honestly don't know why you can be disqualified for doping, but this is allowed. I would also like to nominate NBC Sports coverage or better lack of coverage on this subject, or the other controversial topics of the 2024 games. What other controversial topics are going on? I don't know. I haven't been keeping up with it.
Those are the main two I've seen in my limited.
Yeah. Not even the local NBC affiliate in Sacramento area, KCRA, that has local reporters on the ground in Paris and does an hour-long show during the games every evening after the news, did not mention anything about that, I guess. Worst Olympics coverage ever. Thanks, as always, for the show and what you do, Jeff. So there's our Leadhead nominated jackwagon for the week. And I mean, I can't second that any more than probably the conservative media has obviously been covering this, and the fact that the liberal media is not covering this, they don't think it's a big deal. And I don't know if this person's won a medal or not, but it just shouldn't be allowed. I mean, men and women's sports, whether you identify as a woman or not, should not be allowed. And
Agreed,
I think everybody knows my stance on that. So, swimming, boxing, anything. I mean, that's why we have men's sports and women's sports, because there is a physical difference in the two biological sexes. So,
that's a considerable gap too.
Do you run across that in the martial arts sports? Is that something that's infiltrated into that now, to where you've got to worry about men identifying as women and wanting to compete in women's martial arts?
I've seen a few small incidences pop up in the MMA world, but I don't think it went very far. Just small noise a few times, maybe in the last couple of years, but not a lot of it other than that.
Yeah. Well, good. And that seems to be one of the sports that has got a handle on reality, is the martial arts, the MMA. Because I mean, especially with Dana White and the UFC, you don't see that anywhere in that I've seen.
Dana White doesn't play many games.
Yeah. Do you know Dana White?
I've met him once.
Oh, you have? Okay.
Yeah.
How'd that go?
Great guy.
Super guy? Are you being
politically
correct right now, or is he actually a good dude?
He's my limited experience with him. He's a good dude, and I know I've got a couple of friends that are probably closer to him. Like I said, I just got a chance to meet him one time at an event, but That's the read I got on him. Good guy. Very real.
And that's what I guess the appeal to me is about him, is that he doesn't pull punches. He doesn't care about political correctness, and the facts are the facts, kind of deal.
That's what I like about him.
Yeah,
It's
I
hard
really
to find
dig
that now.
Well, in the public, sector, when people who are very public like that, it is hard to definitely find that. And hopefully, he's kind of setting a pace to bring things back to reality, and reset the norm instead of this political correct bullshit that has just overwhelmed not just our country, but the entire world, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is a budding division in media. I'm starting to see more individuals step forward and offer, different services where you can get another side of it. Of course, maybe you're looking at an extreme other side. I don't know, but it's good to see that because it's been one-sided for quite a while.
It has, and I mean, it still is. I mean, it really is. I can't think of a legitimate conservative other side news outlet that's out there right now. Can you? I mean, Fox is not, as much as they, try to be. They're as liberal and divisive as CNN or NBC or ABC, any of those.
And that's we're discussing earlier about not owning a TV, and I probably completely put that habit down in the late 80s, early 90s, and didn't even blink. And then obviously from picking one up recently for my host or my new guest, an opportunity to kind of, jump on and go, well, what is it like now? Maybe you could take a look every now and then. Holy shit, no.
Poison, man.
Man, I don't want anything to do with any of that.
So what about you? Going through, and now you kind of get the idea what jack wagons and heroes are. You got any jack wagons? Any heroes?
It's going to be hard to follow that one, but I would nominate exactly what we're talking about, current media. Yeah, and my
politicians, because they kind of go hand in hand now, is the politics and the media, and that's all the news seems to be now, is politics.
It's canned and then handed out to everyone for them to deliver through whatever media they're in charge of.
Yeah, it's scripted, and they have these like buzzwords that they're supposed to say, and it gets disseminated to all the talking heads, and they all have to go by this script now. And what's the thing that's that conservatives are being called by the left now? Weird. Everybody's being called weird now if you're a conservative. I think it started with J.D. Vance. They started calling him weird, and now they're calling everybody weird and everything weird that they don't agree with.
Yeah, I don't keep up with it, but it's the flavor of the month, probably.
Yeah. So, you said you hadn't had a TV for like 30 years and you just got one. What was like the first thing that you wanted to go check and see if something has changed?
Oh, well, I was going to check out the news.
So the news was like the first thing? Yeah.
Yeah, not much for sitting on my ass. I generally stay busy.
Yeah.
But take a moment to sit down and go, okay, well, let's see. And unfortunately, that was the first dip back into TV land. And
completely different than 30 years ago, how they used to disseminate information.
Lots of opinion, where it used to just be, here's your facts. This is what happened.
There's no facts. All opinion now.
Yeah. And both sides of the fence, this is what that person in front of me thinks. And, from what I could tell, no real source for the information, which was, used to, this is what's going on, and here's some sources to back it up. This is who we talk to. This is where you can go to, read about it. And that was absent. So
completely absent. Another thing that I wanted jackwagon wise, while I'm thinking about it, is the election in Venezuela. And again, you probably don't know anything about it, but supposedly the election was rigged, and the guy who won it, who's been in power for however many decades he's been in power, it's coming out that again it was rigged and all these fake ballots and fake counting and all this. It sounded very familiar, something that happened here not too long ago, and in the ways that they were covering up. But what's the jackwagonery about it is the liberal media calling it out over there and how wrong and how this guy absolutely did it, and it wasn't here. They were saying, oh, it wasn't rigged. That's just accept it and go on, kind of deal. But when it happens over there to in a different country, and they're all over it saying, oh, it was rigged, and so we didn't get the results that we wanted. So anyway, you don't know what I'm
build
talking
a lot of confidence in the system.
Not ours anymore. Not our system. And the fact that we've got another election coming up, how fair is it going to be? Is it going to be as fair as the last one? Is that what we can expect again? It's going to be interesting next few months, to say the least, in this country. So kind of brings us full circle to what we're talking about today. Our subject is, self-defense, self-awareness, self-preparedness. And that's where Alan is going to come into play. And Alan, you and I met through our mutual friend Art, Roll Range. He introduced the two of us because you've got some courses coming up at Roll Range here in Nashville. And I was asking him about them, and he's like, oh, hey, well, let me introduce you to Alan, and maybe you can get him on the show and talk about it. So being 40 years in the, and you and I were talking, we had a conversation earlier prior to our recording this. You don't really consider it self-defense because, that's kind of like being proactive versus being reactive. You call it like self-offense, I think is the word that you used when we were talking earlier.
Yeah.
And I like that. Don't wait for the shit to come to you. Be aware and know what's going on, and squash it before it happens, kind of deal. So I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but talk about how you got started into martial arts with this 40-year and continuing journey.
Well, originally, it's right before my 11th birthday. And a letter got sent home to my parents, and the letter asked them to please put me on drugs so that they could contain me and keep me under control in the classroom.
Control.
Yeah.
The word. Yeah.
And thank goodness, Mom chose to go other routes. And in searching for other possibilities, she found the local martial arts instructor at that time who taught out of a fallout shelter. I'm dating myself here.
A fallout shelter, nice.
Yeah, at the local university.
Okay, all right. It's like a tornado fallout or a nuclear fallout.
Nuclear.
Well, let me ask you, how old are you?
54.
Okay, we're the same age. I'm 54 also. So we grew up same era. So, the drugs and stuff like that in our generation, that wasn't something that was widely used. The Ritalin and I don't even think they knew what ADHD was then. I think they just called it, he was just a pain in the ass kind of. He's a troubled child, kind of deal.
Could have been, yeah.
And that was their solution was, you need to get this kid involved with extracurricular activities, whether it's, sports or, chess or working on cars or, something. This kid's got too much energy, kind of deal. Yeah. And that was you at 11.
Yeah. And first night, I remember vividly. The guy's name who taught the class was Brent Helms. He had two sons. And I remember as two boys because first night I ended up in front of them sparring, and they beat the hell out of me. And it was the greatest moment of my life. You know, here I
Changed my
was.
life.
Yeah, it was awesome. I got to go to this place and do things in this class that I got so much trouble at when I was at school. You're not allowed to do those things outside that class, but I fell in love with it. I knew that's what I was going to be doing. I'm going to come, and these are my people. I'm going to be spending time with them from this point forward.
Now, where did you grow up?
A little town outside of Chattanooga, Tennessee, Cleveland, Tennessee.
Oh, okay, so I thought you were from Georgia for some reason. So you're from
Originally,
over there, East Tennessee Ridge Runner.
Right around the Ocoee River. I grew up in those mountains.
Yeah, I know where that's at. So I'm in Murfreesboro.
Yeah?
I'm
Awesome.
originally from Sparta, though, White County.
Okay.
So closer to the area that you're talking about now.
Mm-hmm.
Up there, just off the plateau. So little towns like that, school systems are different back in those days.
Oh, vastly.
Completely different. And in a small town like that, I mean, Sparta, for example, is a small town too. I don't know if it was smaller than Cleveland. I think Cleveland might have been a little bit smaller than Sparta, but I know what you're talking about, man. Yeah, I mean, you had to be tough in those schools those days. You get your ass kicked.
Well, it was part of the curriculum.
It was.
You'd
was.
start something in the hallway, and the teacher would walk up and wait for you to finish. And once you're done, and he'd walk over and go, "Okay, guys, let's go to the office. Come with me." But he wouldn't
get a
interrupt
paddle.
you. Yeah. Get
You
it,
get a
get it
paddle.
out of your system.
They call your parents. They'd let your parents know, and the parents would say, "Yeah, bust their ass."
Yeah.
And then you
Tear
get
'em up.
ass busted when you got home.
But yeah, right. Yeah, get one from the principal. And if that wasn't good enough, he'd take you down and visit the librarian, who was ex-Navy and
Yeah.
had his own special piece of wood.
With holes in it, so it was aerodynamic.
Right.
You remember that?
Hell yeah, that guy knew what he was doing.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They could threaten me with that guy, and I'm okay. All right, I'll straighten up.
But not these days. I mean, I think that's where a lot of the youth, the discipline, to being able to discipline your children, and allowing the teachers to, somewhat discipline them. It's just, it's complete, and that's why they're relying on all the drugs today, and they're so quick to just give kids drugs instead of trying to, like you said, find an alternate way for this pent up energy that everybody has at that age. It's called hormones.
Yeah.
To release them. So your mom was smart and wise, and she put you in a dojo, a local dojo.
Yep, and that's when I realized what I was going to be doing the rest of my life.
Hooked from day one. Huh?
Damn right. Yep. And back then, by 13 or 14, you could start mowing yards, washing cars, doing stuff for the neighbors, making extra money, because the parents would pay for one school. But I wanted to go to, there's like two more in that little town. I was like, I want to go to those too. So I had to make the money to pay for that. So I was.
Cleveland must have been bigger than Sparta, because I don't think Sparta even had any kind of karate or kung fu or any of that stuff.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, not until, oh man, I had to have been almost out of high school. So it'd been in the mid 80s, probably.
Yeah.
Late 80s before we got any kind of like martial art kind of deal. We didn't have wrestling in our school. Did y'all have wrestling in your school?
Yes. Yep.
Dude, we didn't even have wrestling until I was a senior. And we finally got this football coach who was from Louisiana, and he had done some coaching at which college is the Raging Cajuns? I can't remember which one. One of those Louisiana colleges. He was a coach down there, and he did wrestling, and he introduced it to our high school. And I just missed out on wrestling, or I would have done it, because they use that as part of the curriculum for our off-season training for football.
Mm-hmm.
We would do the wrestling and stuff, and I loved it.
Oh, it's such a good environment. Obviously I'm a big believer in combat sports, but the things they teach you and opportunities to learn
Yeah.
and the struggle that it creates, much like what we're talking about with the librarian earlier. I think part of growth, young men, young future warriors need struggle. They need those moments. That's what makes you grow. So it is a good environment to find those things and to learn to deal with it, because as a human machine, that's what we need. It's what makes us stronger.
Yeah. And I haven't had a lot of self-defense classes. I haven't taken any kind of martial art consistently. Probably when I was like 28 or 29, I enrolled in like it was a karate class. And I just started college. I was right out of college, somewhere around then. And I had a knee injury because I would play baseball, and I had completely torn all the tendons and ligaments. And it was right when I started that course, and I never went back after that. And it's kind of one of the biggest regrets that I had, is not doing more of the self-defense courses and classes, disciplines.
Never too late.
They're it's not. It's not. But I heard a lot. I heard a whole lot. I just had a hip replaced about a year ago. Got another one on the docket to get replaced. I got a knee that's up for replacement. But yeah, those are excuses, and I understand it. But back to you, and this 40-year continuing journey that you're on here with the martial arts. You've got how many different disciplines that you are proficient with?
I've made it to advanced rank in probably over 25 different systems.
25, and are they called systems or what do you call them?
It'll vary.
Karate is one, and jiu-jitsu, and
judo, right?
Judo, and you have 25 different ones that you're like super skilled
that
in.
I've made it to an advanced level in, which could be an instructorship, black level ranking or higher, which basically means I've been a martial arts bum for 40 years.
And seem to be doing very well with it. Did you do it professionally at any point?
Yes, I started teaching professionally in right around 1990. And I'm very fortunate that I've always been a perpetual white belt student, and of many different things. So I was very lucky to have
beginning level, white belt, beginning level. I don't know the belt color. So.
Yeah, generally white is considered like a beginning level in different arts. Okay. Some won't even have ranking systems, but probably most people know the belt ranking system. It originally came, I think, out of Kodokan Judo, and a lot of different systems started to implement it, especially when it starts to get more professional, when they're starting to sell it as a product. So
monetized.
What's that?
They monetized it.
That's correct. Yeah, and which had a huge effect on what's available today and the mindset in the industry. But yeah, I was very fortunate to have a student who was a serial entrepreneur, and he introduced me to that. I would call it an art as well. Sure. And started to develop different revenue streams in that industry. And by the mid to late 90s, I was to the point where I could just travel and train. I got to pick out the individuals I wanted to train with. And that's how I arrived to where I am today. Don't tell the SO how much money I have blown on this over the years. We just need to keep that to ourselves.
Keep that under the hat there, yeah. Well, if, like they say, I mean, if you're doing something, if you work something that you love, you don't work a day of your life, So
that's true.
It
Absolutely.
seems like you took this from age 11. Have you ever done anything else?
I've had
You
moments
ever have
where
like a real job? Did you flip
yeah, there were
burgers at
moments
Burger
over
King or
that
sell
time.
cars or?
There were moments over that time where I had to clock in on occasion, hated it, and it drove me even more to get away from it. I actually have one of those cards from like 20 years ago. I still have one.
Business card?
No, it's one of those cards where you used to actually clock into one of the old school
Oh,
machines.
no shit. Do you really?
Yeah, yeah, it just represents my hatred for having a real job.
Oh, you should put that back there with your other framed
I
accomplishments.
should frame that thing. Right now, it's a
That would be
bookmark.
cool as shit. Well, there you go.
Introducing our new belly band holster. Whether you're hitting the gym or running a quick errand, our belly band is one of the most comfortable and safest ways to carry your firearm. The center section allows you to carry most common pistols. Left or right-handed, this has you covered. A hard laminate trigger shield protects the firearm's trigger from unwanted intrusion, giving you ease of mind while carrying every day. 2 elastic sleeves give you the flexibility to carry other everyday items, such as spare mags, flashlight, knife, or pepper spray. 2 zippered pockets run on both sides, offering the option to carry smaller items such as money, cards, or keys. Flush fit on your lower back or waist, easily keeping your setup discreet no matter how you choose to carry. Utilizing 3D spacer mesh, these channels allow for exceptional and efficient airflow, giving you maximum comfort and keeping you cool. Carry whenever you want, how you want, with our new belly band holster. Available now.
Mission First Tactical is the official tactical accessories provider for the Talking Lead podcast and the Leadhead Brigade. Use the code LEADHEAD for an exclusive 20% discount on all orders.
But yeah, that would be cool. So, no, like I say, real job to speak of. Like, did you do something for more than a year other than martial arts?
Taught diving since around 98. Taught rappelling for the majority of my life. One of my instructors, when I was in my mid to late teens, he taught Kung Fu, but he also had an expeditions company. And we used to go to class because his school was about 3 hours away from Cleveland. So we would drive up there to go to class. And since it was such a long drive, we'd stay through the weekend. We used to go up on Thursday nights. And part of that is he'd be like, boys, why don't you grab that rope and help me with this group of people? And, they were hiking, they were diving, they were climbing, rappelling, mountaineering. So I got introduced to those things and loved it. And so when I had the opportunity, after getting a little older and moving out of Cleveland, I would look for more instruction, which led to getting to the position where you can teach rappelling. And I followed it all the way through to rappel master instructor. So like now I usually will teach a group of rappel masters once or twice a year. Same thing with diving, went through cave diving, all the way up through dive instructor. Loved it. Okay. It's a blast. Getting to lead trips and stuff.
I'm certified diver.
Awesome. Yeah.
I haven't done the cave certification. It's something I've been wanting to do though.
It'll scare the hell out of you. It's great.
I hate because I'm very claustrophobic too. I hate enclosed tight spaces, but
there are enclosed tight spaces full of water. And
yeah,
you can't
but
see
I love wreck diving, and some of those, you go in, and those are kind of some tight spaces, and but I think once I got in there and I started doing it, I would be okay because I get my mind off of it and I'm focused on the actual dive itself, because none of those ever bothered me.
Yeah, it's a blast. I've got out of it because it was difficult to find good partners, which is very, very important. So
gotta have a dive partner.
Yeah, especially a good one when there's no coming to the surface. And a lot of times your life can depend on that guy. So due to the lack of good support, I I started just doing more open water diving and leading trips and that sort of thing. So I don't know if you can call that a real job, but I kind of turned it
I mean,
into
you're
that.
living the life so far, man. Rappelling, scuba diving, martial arts. These are like people's dream lives. It's like kind of like Bodie and the Point Break. You ever watch that movie, Point
Oh
Break?
yeah, good movie.
That's a great movie. Yeah, it's one of my favorite movies.
My movie
You're just like
education happened in the 80s.
That's true. That's true. When did you start the scuba diving? At what age?
I got certified as an instructor around 98. So I started doing it legally around 95, 96. Up to that point, I didn't, like when I first got introduced to it when I was younger, ex-Vietnam vet, he was just like, hey boys, put this gear on, don't hold your breath, go do this. And I didn't know you had to be certified, which probably wasn't the smartest thing.
Yeah.
So when I found out, I'm like, okay, well, I want to know the information. When I found out there was an educational process for it, I was sold, and so started pursuing that and getting more involved with it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, you can scuba dive and somebody can teach you, and you don't have to be certified. But I mean, there are certifications that you can go through to teach and instruct if you wanted to do that.
Yeah, generally you can. It's good to have someone with you that's got some experience. And if you're going, it's good to have a basic open water if you're planning on going and doing it yourself, because it does have the potential to mess things up.
I remember my open water, our open waters we were doing. It was prior to that, and we were getting ready to do the open water, and it was down in Huntsville, Alabama, in one of the rock quarry. Have you been down there where they've got
the
rocket ships and everything?
Yeah, they got the plane, the jet plane, the bus.
Yeah, and they've got a rocket. There's like an old rocket in there too.
Been there many times. That's a great spot.
Yeah,
is it the Blue Hole?
I think that's what it's
an old
called.
Quarry.
Yep, an old rock quarry. And I've been in several rock quarries, gone diving in several rock quarries. Those are some of the coolest places to go. But why I remember it so vividly is that a guy died during that course on that day, and it was like 100 and something degrees. I mean, it was a super hot day, and we probably shouldn't have been having a course that day. But he was an older gentleman, and it was like our last dive of the day. And I think he was just completely exhausted, but he had a heart attack underwater. Oh. Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Hate to hear that, man.
So there's my scuba diving story.
Well, it is lots of fun for those of you that are out there.
It is. Well, it's a whole other world, when you get under, especially when you go to an ocean where it's super crystal clear, and you go to a reef and you do a reef dive.
Yep.
And see all the life that's at these reefs. I mean,
it is unreal. It is like a different world.
It is. And I need to get back in. I haven't dove in, oh God, it's been at least 15 years or longer. So I need to get back into it. I miss it.
Got to get.
But it was like you said, I got out of it because my dive partner, the guy that I would go with all the time, got out of it, and he quit doing it. And I just, I never found another.
Yeah, you got to get back in the culture. Find some way to get back in the culture, and that'll solve a lot of those problems.
That's right. Surround yourself with like-minded individuals, and that's one of your philosophies. I've heard you say it on your podcast, and I listened to a couple other podcasts that you were on too, and that seemed to kind of be a recurring theme as well.
Yeah, it's something you hear on a pretty regular basis. Show me who your friends are, I'll show you where you're going.
Yeah.
And sometimes we'll like, nah, well, that's not for me. I don't have to do that, which I probably did first 100 times I heard that. And then I took it to heart and started actually cleaning up my inner circle, individuals that have direct contact with me, share energy with me on a regular basis, and it is a huge difference in your life. Sometimes it's some difficult decisions, but it is such a powerful life tool, ultimately. That
And how do you go about making that decision? It's like, okay, I've been friends with this person for, years and years and years. How do you make the decision to just drop the dead weight?
The way I usually explain it is I will set up concentric rings of relationship. And that inner ring is your inner circle. And then before you ever even think about people, you'll sit down and think about what the boundaries of those rings are. You can say an individual that sits at this level, at this close to me, this is what I expect, and this is the level of energy, positive energy that I expect to be delivered into my life from someone who sits at this level. Then I might go to the next ring out, and it might, obviously the boundaries are a little looser, but I'm not expecting as much from that. And I've set these up anywhere from 3 to 6 rings deep. And once you have done that and you've decided what the boundaries are and what you expect from those different levels, then you can step back and say, well, what individuals fit those definitions? Which ones already fit those? It's kind of surprising sometimes. Is in your mind, you may see someone as a more distant relationship, but they deliver so much positive energy in your life. You're like, wow, I need to move that individual up closer to me. And that also includes what you're doing for them. What are the boundaries for them? But you also have to decide what is my responsibility. And part of that is giving more time. I have to give more life units to the people there. I might check in on them more often. If their yard needs mowed, I know it needs to be mowed, and I may go over there and do it. They're close to me. So there are boundaries on my end and their end. And then you also may look at individuals that are pretty close to you and go, wow, that guy, he's always bringing negative energy. He's always like borrowing the tools and never bringing them back, that sort of thing. So I may simply move that individual up to that next ring. He's not gone. I just don't expect as much. But in turn, he may not be getting as much from me. And, maybe he goes 2 rings out. And it's really interesting how you can realize how uneven a relationship is and then make these adjustments. And the biggest thing they see is your involvement. How often you're around, or probably how often you are supporting something for them. Maybe you do something for them and you're not really getting anything back. And due to those boundaries you've defined, that starts to lessen a little bit, and how quickly they notice that. And it's not a bad thing, and it's just where do you place them?
Yeah.
And then,
I'm sorry to interrupt. Is this something that you go over in your books? Because, I did mention that Alan is also an author. He's written 3 books that are on Amazon right now. I guess you can go to your website and get these too. What you're talking about right now, is this philosophy, this skill in one of your books?
I do talk about it as one of the life tools of the Warrior's Path program. Warrior's Path is kind of a self-leadership coaching program. I was teaching these tools so often, as I said earlier, in the academy. And being a teacher, perpetual teacher, I have a bad habit of creating curriculum. If I realize it's something that I want to teach, there needs to be a intelligent educational process for it. So I will generally start to write it down, put it in order. And over the years, that became that program. People would ask, what is this? And so we gave it a name. And then the first book came out of it when COVID hit, because everything shut down, and I ended up on a mountain in Virginia with nothing to do but sit and type. So,
well, why were you on a mountain in Virginia? Is that part of your rappelling that you were doing?
When we had the
I'm a nosy son of a bitch.
That's okay. The pandemic, when the apocalypse happened.
Yeah.
Local authorities were like, you need to shut your business down for X amount of time.
Yeah.
And I could probably say it now. Only the front of the house closed. So if they came by, the door's closed, the lights are off, but we had 7,000 square feet, and all of my guys had keys to the back door. So
Yeah.
operations didn't really stop, but I got a
Good for
free
you.
vacation. So I went up to a friend's home in the Shenandoah Valley, and they had this sunroom, and I had a chair in that sunroom, and I sat there for like 2 months, and that's when I put the first book together.
Is the Warriors
Years of
Path the
notes.
first book?
Yes.
Okay.
It kind of introduces the mindset and a lot of the life tools that I follow and were teaching at that time. The second book is a continuation of those tools, because that was probably the most common question I got after Warriors Path was, what are the rest of the universal principles, which is the list of life tools I teach. So that book continues to introduce those principles and ways to use them. And from that book, we talked about putting together a morning routine. And I have a very specific way that I do my morning routine based on my training and experience in the arts. So that book introduces those ideas. I believe there are certain segments that should exist in a morning routine. I see a lot of individuals, well, I'll read a book. I'll just sit quietly for a little bit. But I think that there's a more organized process to get a greater return. And that's what that book was focused on.
Give us kind of a little starter point on that when starting your morning. Are you like an avid get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and you've got this certain day-to-day regime that you do every day consistently kind of deal?
I do get up early. And I'm not like the guys that say you have discipline to do it. It's a habit that my dad passed down to me. Regardless of how late I stay up, I will wake up at 5:30. So it could be looked at as a positive thing or a curse. So yes, I do wake up early. And I'll usually get a good morning routine in depending on the day. I travel quite a bit. Almost every weekend I'm in a different location to teach. So depending on travel, I'll usually average about 3 to 4 days a week that I can get a good amount of time in on the morning routine.
And what's a morning routine? What's a morning routine look like?
For me, it has different elements that, you're trying to implement into life or into the human machine. One of the main ones is breath, proper breath. And, you see a lot of these breathing pattern examples out there, and they're all sold. But for me, there's a basic pattern that you can learn that has all of the alphabet of breathing in it, all of the major parts of many different breaths. I call it the full cycle breath. And good breath will change your life. It'll oxygenate your body. It'll make you more alert, more energy on a daily basis.
So is this like, all right, it's morning time. I wake up. I'm opening my eyes. I'm like, oh, fuck, I hurt like a mofo, cracking my back, my knee, throw my feet over the side of the bed. Is this when this breathing starts, or are you like going and take your morning shit, and then you go and you sit cross-legged Indian style and you're doing this breathing? I mean, how?
You can do it laying, like when you wake up before you throw your legs over. You could do it sitting on the side of the bed.
Before I start cursing my body.
Yeah, well, we could compare injuries, man.
You probably got a lot more than that.
Start talking about pain. The different people will do it standing. When I teach it, we kind of find what you can maintain. And if you create a habit, and you can do it, because the main thing is consistency. And if it's something that you're like, man, this sucks, well, then we need to find something that sucks less. so that you can at least get it done maybe twice, 3 times a week. And if you can do that and you start seeing change that comes from it, it's easier to go, yeah, I'm going to do this 3 days a week. It makes me feel better. I can notice what I'm getting from it. And then you can always step up and upgrade how you're doing it and get greater effects. So generally, that's one of the first areas is just breath control. And the breath is the bridge. I mean, it is the channel to control your mind, your emotions, your body, especially as you get farther along the journey. It is a timeless tool. You know, when you watch strength leaving, speed leaving, breath is still there. That's one of the reasons I nicknamed it a timeless tool. And then next section may be tension control in the body. If you imagine a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being completely dead and relaxed, the other one fully flexed, or let's say a body that has been electrocuted, fully activated. Most people operate between a 4 and a 6. They can't relax lower than a 4, and they can't create flexion in the body higher than a 6 unless they're trained. And our goal is to learn to turn off that tension in the body. Sometimes we will say, let's relax. But it is a learned skill. And you can learn how to do it with different drills. And it's a lifesaver. You know, stress will kill you. Tension in your body will feel like injury sometimes. You know, it'll shut you down. And through the training, you can learn to become aware of it and get control over it over time. And same thing on the other end of the spectrum. I would like to learn how to create higher levels of flexion. So you look at strength training, various forms of it. Those guys not only maybe increase muscle mass, but they also increase their ability to create flexion in a muscle group. So really those two things can affect strength. But you can specifically work on your control of higher levels of flexion. And even if you're not necessarily able to get in the gym, you can still work on getting stronger. You look at monks. One of my old teachers, Pavel Testosteron, he's sometimes credited for bringing kettlebelling to the United States.
Okay.
Not a large guy, but extremely strong. And he follows a lot of the principles.
European.
What's that?
He sounds European.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Polish? From Poland?
Soviet, just out of the Soviet Union. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And he borrowed a lot of the principles from Chinese Kung Fu Hai to train these levels of flexion. So that, to me, that would be a portion, maybe more the relaxation portion of a morning routine is spending maybe 2 to 5 minutes working on gaining control of that. And if we do this properly, it becomes habit. You know, most of the times we breathe high in the chest if we're not paying any attention to it. We don't really have full access to our pulmonary capacity. So if you do this like anything, 2 or 3 times a week for a few minutes, eventually your body starts to accept it as habit. And that's one of the reasons for plugging it into a routine. And you start carrying it over into your day and you just operate at a higher level. You just breathe at a better level. And the same thing with the tension control. We hope to make it a habit in the human machine and be able to relax more and have control.
Give me an example of the tension control.
One of the methods is it can be done standing or sitting, and they will just mentally, with the mind's eye, they'll pass through the body, focus on different areas of the body, and work on relaxing it. For instance, if you mentally just get to your shoulder and you just focus on it and relax it, it'll amaze you sometimes that it'll drop a 1/4 inch and relax. You're like, well, what was it doing before I put my mind there? Well, it was in that state of flexion. And sometimes we're totally unaware of it. So we hold that in the body and we're not even aware that it's there. And this is influenced by maybe Atlanta traffic, shitty diet, the crazy neighbor. So,
I mean, when people come up, like you were in a stressful day in traffic or whatever, and you get to the office, and then people can just look at you and tell that you're tense.
Right.
Kind of
And,
just
if
shows.
we have never done any type of training like that, that's just the way it is. Maybe I'll go fix this later with a drink. But, with training, we can, oh, well, you're right, it is. Take a breath in that moment and then cut it loose, release it from the body, and then go about your day. And the ability to do that, puts the drink down or any of those other fixes that sometimes you'll lean into to help release those things from the body. Way healthier way to do it. And hopefully it's not a one-time thing. Like we said, if we're doing it on a regular basis, over time, we get greater control of that and we exist in a state of more relaxation or less stress.
Are you completely against like supplements and natural herbs and things like that, taking substances, or do you believe that those can also benefit?
I believe they could also benefit. My approach would be to train ourselves at a high level. As with the warrior mindset, one of the things we want to do is we want to gain higher levels of control of ourselves. Because, when the shit hits the fan and you're the guy in the room that's getting ready to step forward, your level of control of yourself in that moment of chaos matters. So that's one of the things a warrior wants to do is get to know, you'll hear that often, get to know yourself, get to understand yourself, connect to it more, get more control and capacity with the tool that you're given, the human machine.
Right. Now, I don't think we've talked about this yet. Do you have any military or law enforcement background or experience?
I do not. Worked with a lot of them over the years.
Sure.
Tremendous amount of respect for those guys, but no, I don't have any official involvement.
Okay. And I was curious, but being in the expert in the areas that you train, I would think that, you probably get like the police departments or some sort of military groups that call you in to help with their training.
Quite a bit, yeah. I actually have a business where I will train those individuals and I design programs for them. One of the examples is the Executive Protection Institute out of New York and Virginia. We designed protection response tactics for those guys, and it's specifically built for protection agents.
Okay.
And so that I do quite a bit of that around the U.S.
Now, with the executive protection part, was that one of your gigs at one point in time? Did you actually do executive protection?
Yes, I was very fortunate in that due to my relationship with EPI, I got to pick what I was doing. So I would call myself a protection tourist. Yeah, so I'd choose details on, most of them were highly recognizable individuals. So you were constantly dealing with fans. And
Sure.
I like those because it is directly related with a lot of things I teach.
Yeah.
I would work a lot of individuals at Comic-Con events. So you put your hands on literally thousands of people over the day.
Did you say Comic-Con?
Yeah.
Comic-Con.
Comic-Con, the big...
Yeah. No, I'm a geek, so yeah, I know. I'm just surprised you brought up Comic-Con.
Yeah, it's...
Dragon Con in Atlanta. They do Dragon Con in Atlanta. So is this like the big San Diego Comic Cons? That's what you're talking about?
Some of them. I forget. One of them is
Knoxville. They do
based around The Walking Dead.
Okay.
Which one is that? I've worked that one quite often.
Yeah.
So it would give me an opportunity to practice what I preach. I never really stood behind the client. I was always out in front of the table like an employee.
Did you bodyguard Negan?
No.
What's his name? Jeffrey Dean Morgan?
No, I didn't get a chance to do that.
No.
But quite a few of the other ones, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you not name drop?
It's kind of an industry standard not to throw it out there, but if probably
Well, my
80% of
last
that.
guest told us who they were. So we had Kid Rock's executive protection guy. We had
I saw that one
Dolly
too.
Parton.
Yeah.
We had Slipknots. We had what did Andrew? Some country guy that he did, but he was less executive protection. He's like an ex-CIA guy, so he was pretty
And
cool.
so a lot of those individuals I've probably worked with, and several superheroes on TV.
He rose on TV. So the guys that I just mentioned, did you say you haven't personally worked with any of them? Brian Seaver, Jim Irwin, Andrew Cousins, Daniel Fielding. Those were the guys that I had on that episode.
I don't think I've worked with them, which doesn't mean I might not have been at the same event and just.
I'm
not
surprised
known
you and Daniel haven't met or interacted before, because he's in the Nashville area.
Yeah.
He also wrote a book, The Asset Mindset.
Mm-hmm.
I think he might know Jason also. Jay Redmond.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. Jay's been on the show before. I've had Jay on. He was one of the ones that I forgot to hit record on.
Oh no.
He's like, that's the best interview I've ever done. And I looked up and I was like, you want to do it
Let's
again?
do it twice if it was that good.
I know. I was so embarrassed. But he was really cool about it. I like Jay. He's a good dude.
Yeah, he is.
Very good dude. So on one of your books, I saw that he did like a foreword or something for that. How did you meet Jay?
I got introduced to him through a mutual friend who is in the protection industry. Got to meet him and go to one of his speaking events here in Atlanta, and then hit it off immediately. And then I think the next event I saw him and worked with him at was a Roger Up, which is a self-improvement event that was done in Chicago.
Yeah.
And then through that relationship, he needed a program built for a thing he was putting together called Overcome and Survive. And it's a training program, and he wanted a specific type of defensive tactics taught. And I designed the program for him, and then that was the launching point. After that, we were working together quite a bit, and I get to see him probably 3 or 4 times a year now at the Overcome and Survive events and various other things. Got to be good friends. And I never thought he'd say yes. There's a good story to that. And we were actually at a gathering in Virginia. And I was like, hey, what's it going to cost me to get you to do a forward for a book? And he was like, oh, I'll do it. And I'll go, okay, here's the book. And I had told him about it previously. And it was like 6 months later, hey, how's that coming? I'm working on it. A year later, how's that coming? I'm working on it. And then I think it was maybe a year, maybe not a year and a half, but it was a good time away. And I was like, dude, I don't care. If you're doing it, I'll wait. I don't give a shit. And I told him, I said,
my book out. I'd like to get it out and circulate for this decade.
And at another event, I was like, hey, man, I'm going to write a forward, 2-year forward, and just tell the story about how fucking long it's taken to get it. And he laughed his ass off. And so he goes, within the week, he had it done. And if you've read the forward, he actually tells the story in his forward. So I didn't get to put mine in it.
You kiboshed that real quick.
Yeah.
He controlled the narrative on that one. Very good. For my listeners who know, have been listeners for a long time, Jay Redmond, he wrote a book called The Trident. He's a former Navy SEAL. Got shot up really bad, and he tells a story about that and how he overcame and prevailed, and he's still kicking ass and doing really well. So.
Killing it.
He is. He absolutely is. What's one of the? Have you traveled overseas? I assume too. With
done some training in the UK, Spain.
Yeah. So you've probably had an opportunity to meet some of the great martial artists of our time. Probably some people that mainstream doesn't even know about or hear about, but within the martial arts, world, they're gods. Who would you consider that you've met?
Guru Dan Anasano. He is the protege to Bruce Lee. The guy is a legend. It is amazing, what he has done with his life and the systems he has trained and
How old is
continues
this
to
guy?
train. He just turned 88.
Oh my gosh.
He'd run you and me both in the ground.
I have no doubt.
Yeah, he's
That's
still
not saying much for me, but for you, I think.
still up super early, taking private lessons, teaching classes. I'll get to go into town a couple of times and see him a year for instructor camps. And
Is he in
he's up
America?
before all of us. Say again?
Is he in America? Is he in the United
Yes.
States?
Yep, California.
He's in California. Okay.
And he'll be training prior to all the instructors get there. And then he'll teach the instructors for 4 hours. And we're all dead. We're wore out from training. And then
Yeah.
he teaches like 2 kids classes and then 3 more adult classes. Still going.
That's his morning routine right there. Just get warmed up, right?
Yeah. When I think of where I want to be later in life, Guru represents that. I get up with those pains we were talking about earlier, and I look at what he achieved. I'm like, okay, now put that in the background. Let's get up and make something happen. So Guru,
Is he like your typical stereotypical? Is he an Asian guy?
Filipino.
He's Filipino. He's like the small, dainty Miyagi, kind of
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, you could say that. Very unassuming.
unassuming. Yeah, but he'd
Yep.
kick your ass in a heartbeat.
Yep, one of the nicest human beings on this planet. He wouldn't have to. The people around him
Oh,
protect
I'm
him
sure.
like a dad. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure they treat him like what's that god deity that they've got over there?
Buddha?
Yeah, whatever yeah. Anyway, I had like 2 questions on my mind while I was thinking about that. So you said Guru and you're Sifu. What are the differences in these titles?
One is Filipino Indonesian, Guru. The other one is like Cantonese, Chinese systems, Sifu.
Does it mean the same thing?
Yeah,
Teach-
instructor. Sifu means instructor, father. And that was the one that just stuck over the years. Depending on the system, each system has a different way of saying it.
Yeah.
But
And how do you get that designation? Is that bestowed upon you? Is there, again, like we were talking, certification like diving and all this other stuff? And how do you get the Sifu or the Guru or the Master? You hear that a lot.
Yeah.
Titles.
For me, when I reached 3rd degree in a system, the instructor in that system was formally, he said, "You're now Sifu." And
It's like being knighted. Someone has to designate that upon
yes,
you.
and I think in other academies, maybe it's not given. I've heard that a lot of people just pick it up if you're a teacher, but that's how it happened for me.
Yeah. Have you ever met Steven Seagal?
No, I haven't.
Okay. I had to throw that out there. And what do you think of Steven Seagal's abilities?
Couldn't say. Never laid hands on him or had him lay hands on me.
When you don't watch TV, so you've never seen him.
Well, I've
either.
seen the movies, and I'm familiar with the system. I have some good friends that
He was
train
big
him.
back in our day, back in our youth.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Loved Steven Seagal movies back in the day. He came up with this energy drink, his own energy drink.
no
I think
kidding.
it's like big in like Taiwan or something like that. I don't know.
Good for him. Great.
Just Steven Seagal trivia. So I wanted to head a different direction with this, but I really like the conversation that we're having here. So this Guru, he's like the greatest guy that you met. What was his name?
Guru Dan Anasanto.
Dan Anasanto. Okay.
Mhm.
Did you compete? Did you do any competitions or anything like that?
Back when I did it, it wasn't formal. They called them bad man contests, and you'd just show up at the bar on Friday night, and after having a few, you'd jump in the ring.
Well, you see, like, all right, I'll bring up the Karate Kid. You know, they had these big tournaments and things that. Did you do that?
I had a few that I did that were Bondo national tournaments
Okay.
when I was much younger. And it was like a kickboxing tournament. It's very similar to Thai boxing.
Okay.
They would have like free fighting nationals, and then they would have the more Thai boxing fights at night.
What's the furthest you've traveled to learn a new discipline, a new art form?
I would say Spain.
To Spain. Okay.
Yeah.
Which one was that? Which art form?
Kizi fighting method.
Kizi.
Right.
And what is the principle behind that?
It's what makes it unique is how it uses shielding, which is using the arms to protect the head. Many different systems do it, but what I found unique about that is it became a living thing, and then they could use it in multiple different positions. And another thing that was very unique about it is how they looked at multiple opponents. That really drew my interest. I actually was researching them before they came to the United States, and they came to the United States, I think, around 2006, 2007. And when I found out about it, I was like buying my ticket to go. And they were, with the individual they were working with, they were expecting a large group of people to show up. So they brought their whole top team. There was like 18 guys that came over.
Oh, wow.
But there was only like maybe 8 or 9 that showed up on the American side.
Oh, really?
Me and my buddy were one of them. So it was great for us, spending the weekend with them, getting fully immersed in the system. And I loved it. To me, it filled a gap of information. And I've been actively pursuing it ever since.
So is it more for the defensive style of that?
Yes,
discipline?
it's very self-defense focused.
Okay. Have you trained any MMA guys?
A few locally. I never really spent a lot of time focusing on it. My focus is always more on self-defense. Of course, I've had students that have trained and competed over the years, and we would have more of a small team inside the academy. Yeah. The academy itself would always focus more on self-protection, self-defense.
And where is your academy?
Woodstock, Georgia. We're a little bit north of Atlanta.
Okay. Do you live there now, or are you in Tennessee still?
Live out of a suitcase, but that's where they send the mail. They send the mail to Woodstock.
Okay. You're registered in Woodstock?
Yeah. That's where the government will go to find me.
I got you. And you won't be there. I get it. I'm with you. How many academies do you have? How many different locations?
Just that one.
Then you travel mainly like for Royal Range. You go to places.
Yeah, we'll do hosted events all around the U.S. Like Royal Range, they've had me to come in and teach maybe 2 times this year, and they've got one more event scheduled coming up, I think, next month. And so, like we were talking about Jason Redmond and Overcome and Survive, I teach events for the Executive Protection Institute, Vehicle Dynamics. So the year starts to fill up.
Yeah.
In between those, I will teach what is probably more known martial arts events like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Filipino martial arts. Speaking of Kizi fighting method, that has been a lot more popular lately. So those will fall in on the schedule once the big guys have chosen their weekends.
And when you say schedule, is this on your website? Can people go and look at your website and see where they can go and sign up for your courses or classes?
Yes, there's an events page. It has a lot of the major events, and generally down at the bottom of that page will be a listing. Right now, we are booking into 2025.
The Kel-Tec Sub 2000 is a name and firearm platform synonymous with innovation. This year, we're looking forward to welcoming even more to the fold with a twist. The new Sub 2003 takes Kel-Tec's iconic folding carbine to the next level by allowing you to leave a fixed optic, lights, sights, or other accessories on the firearm even when it's folded away. To fold the carbine for storage, press down on the trigger guard while pulling back on the end. Rotate or twist the forend until a side slot on the leading end snaps into the retention latch on the buttstock. To unfold the carbine into the firing position, press the latch release button on the end of the buttstock and pull the forend up and away, while rotating or twisting it until the forend engages with an audible snap into the back half of the carbine. Compact and ready for use, the Sub 2003 weighs in unloaded at 4.2 pounds, with a compact folded length of 16.15 inches and an overall length of 30.45 inches when unfurled for use. From the backcountry to personal protection, this versatile go-anywhere tack driver is the perfect multi-purpose addition to any collection. Innovation, performance, Kel-Tec.
Is this
Schedule keeps stretching out.
am I on your website now? Is
Yes,
this
sir. Right there, upcoming training events.
Okay. It's Train with Alan. So you can go to his website. It's SIFU Alan Baker, SIFUAlanBaker.com, for those who aren't watching the video. And click on that schedule. And here's self-defense events, martial art events, C-Tactics. C-Tac events. What's that?
C-Tac is short for Civilian Tactical. It is the Civilian Tactical Instructor Association. When I put together Baker Tactical Training Group, and I was teaching a lot of professionals, and a lot of that information wasn't available to the public, but I was having a lot of requests for that type of training, especially from other martial arts academies. They wanted to put something on their schedule that was more self-defense focused, more tactical focused. So I put together the Civilian Tactical program based on that. So it's a more civilian approach self-defense program designed for our legal system and the things that we have to take into consideration, like it has to be visually appropriate, socially acceptable, legally explicable. And, not a lot of martial arts programs take those things into consideration. It also takes into consideration your everyday carry. So everything you do in that system, we wear a training kit, a gun, and a straight blade. So if you're fighting, an option is for me to go take that from you. Or if we're pummeling or grappling, an option is for me to take it. You have to protect it. And having that on vastly changes everything you do. So that is C-Tac in a nutshell. We do a lot of other things like self-protection. We were talking about the bodyguard industry, and if you hire a protection agent, he's going to do certain things for you. He's going to do a threat assessment on where you live, your route to work. We teach a lot of those things at a civilian level, so you can do it for yourself. So that is the protection side of the system. And then another column would be the self-defense or self-offense, because, combat science isn't necessarily defensive, but a lot of systems will. They'll ingrain their belief systems into you without you even knowing it. And that's one thing we try to do in C-Tac is we try to approach the full spectrum of violence. I would rather be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. So like if a moment arises that I need to know how to flip that switch and turn on what I need to get done, I want to make sure I know those things. And
Right.
not all martial arts goes to that level. So that's another principle we follow in that system, to make the students aware of what
Sure.
your capability really is. Now, you can always choose to back off based on your belief systems, but you don't have someone else choosing it for you.
Yeah. The course coming up in Nashville is a blade class, a knife class.
Right.
How did you get your knife training, and what?
Originally, a lot of my teachers over the years were ex-military. I guess that's just how that happens. And so a lot of that information was initially from them and their training, but then I started to train different forms of Filipino martial arts. And the Filipino martial arts is an extraordinary source of information for bladed weaponry. But like we said earlier, how they present it doesn't take into consideration the legal system, doesn't take into consideration how it's going to look. So even though it's amazing, if I were to do some of those things on the street, I would get in a lot of trouble. So
Yeah.
we kind of have to make a few adjustments to fit our responsibilities legally if we're pressed into that situation. And again, there is a section or a time when the gloves are off and you don't care. But due to how things are set up, we have to take that in consideration. And so that system, that's how it's set up to
Fucking
teach.
lawyer.
What's that?
I said, fucking lawyers.
Well, that happens. We have to deal with it and navigate it,
It's
unfortunately.
reality, yeah. Unfortunate that is. But the one coming up in Nashville is a you call it defensive tactics, the art of the blade knife fighting. Is this a
Yeah.
1 day course?
Yes, and this is a follow-up for one we did last month. Most of the material on the last class was longer range because obviously the closer you get to the threat with a blade, the more dangerous it gets.
Yeah.
And so this one is takes another look at the close quarter options. So
Is this do you have to have that other course prerequisite before you can take this course, or can anybody?
anybody could, but it's good if you have seen that information. But even in this class, we'll discuss, we're being forced into this situation. I don't necessarily want to run in there and have a knife fight. Yeah, maybe I can't get away because I've been backed into a corner, there's a car in the way, or I've got a loved one there and I can't leave. I have to place myself between them and threat. And you're forced into that closer range. So how you can best navigate it and still, follow the first 3 rules of knife fighting. Run, run, run.
run. Or bring a gun.
Yeah.
Or bring a knife to a gunfight. But you also do firearms training too. How did you get involved with the firearms aspect of it?
Well, I would get brought in to teach defensive tactics for law enforcement, some military, personal protection groups, and I'll get their schedule for their events, their training events, and almost always there's 3 or 4 days on the range, or like at EPI, there's a whole week. So when I'm negotiating, I'll go, hey, if I do this, maybe a little less, can I stay and go through your training? Can I come play with you guys?
Yeah.
And, the answer was almost always yes. So that's how I initially started doing more training and getting the opportunity to jump out there with the guys. Completely fell in love with it. And, when I looked at combat between 2 people, unsystemized, not something that's determined by a martial art, firearms is a primal environment. It's something that will happen whether they're trained or untrained. You don't have to have training to pick that thing up and make it work. So due to that, it's something that a combat artist absolutely should have training in. And about 17 years ago, I had done it as a kid, like all of us, but nothing super formal like I was doing in the academy. So I started pursuing more formal training to fill that gap. And that led to today. I spend a lot of time on the range now. We will rent a range once a month in Rome, Georgia, and spend the whole day out there making cookies.
Do you just do handguns, or are you into the long guns as well? That training?
Mostly the pistol, but I have started to put in more long gun training and the transitions and stuff probably in the last year.
Okay. And
I get on the range with Redmond and Ed Gonzalez with Tactical 21, and man, yeah. So you come away from it going, I got to go practice more. I got to get better at this.
That's a good time. What's your preference on carry?
Right now, Glock 17 MOS.
Oh, you like the full size? Okay.
Yeah, and I just recently stepped up to a full size and the red dot, and it's been a journey because I was iron sights probably until third quarter of last year.
Really?
Yeah, it's been a changeover.
You're digging the optics then?
Now I love it, but it was painful, and it's just an ego buster.
I'm still in the iron sights camp. I still like. I don't know, something about the red. I like the red dot on my long guns, for CQB, but I still haven't made the transition for the. I've got a couple that have the red dots on them, pistols, but I don't know. There's something about it. I still prefer the irons for some reason. I don't know.
I still play with both, but I've been actively trying to improve my performance with it.
I think if I went through a course, an actual formal course, it might stick. I don't know. I might appreciate it a little better.
It takes a little time.
Yeah.
For us lesser mortals,
I just feel like I can get on the irons quicker. Do you feel like you can get on the red dot quicker now that you've had the training with it, or?
Recently I've started catching up to it, probably in the last 3 or 4 months. And like I said, I've been putting a lot of extra time in it this year, pursuing, getting there. Yeah. So, I'm starting to catch up where I am, with the iron sights, which is finally, but, I can see.
Are you putting illuminated irons on there?
On the 17, no. I've had them on the previous guns. I used to get the illuminated ones.
Yeah. What were you carrying prior to the 17?
Oh, was it a 32, Glock 32? Or
the 19? Was it the next one down?
I'd have to go pull it out of the box. I haven't
the
had
9 millimeter?
Yes.
Okay. It's probably the 19 then. I've got one here. Oh, right here it is. A little small. I mean, it's like 17. It's just a little smaller.
Nice.
Double stack. Is that? I'm sure it was a 19. That's probably what you were using. Holster wise,
it was originally a 40, and I had it changed. Yeah, I had it changed over, which put a thicker barrel in it.
Okay, 23.
23 maybe. Okay.
Yeah, the 23 was a 40.
And it had the old ribbed handle on it.
I hate the way Glock names their guns. It's just so anti-productive. But what I was asking about, body-wise, how do you carry? You carry appendix, you carry hip, back?
Appendix.
That's the way I carry it too.
A lot of the training we did and the testing with C-Tac, it's hours of, I'll wore it in different places when we would train and just to see what would happen. Yeah. And it gradually moved forward into the appendix position. For me, it was way easier to protect
Yeah.
Easier to access under pressure. Someone, you're fighting them, and so you've got to get it out, get it online.
Yeah.
So that's how it ended up in that position.
Yeah. I'm a lot quicker and faster from the appendix than any other position on the body. You know who Rob Pincus is?
I have heard the name, yes.
Okay. That's who got me carrying appendix. I took some courses through him. But yeah, he's traveled around too. I would assume y'all probably, and he's done some stuff at Royal Range. Maybe you've bumped into one another, but so the firearms aspect of it's kind of something new that you've added to your curriculum, or how long have you been doing that?
Probably about 17 years now. So
Yeah, that's
just a beginner. That's when I started taking the training kit to the academy. I'd show up instead of a gi, I'd have blue jeans on and a tactical belt, and I'd tell the guys, if you can take it, take it.
Yeah.
And
So I made a post online asking for some listener questions. I'm going to go to that in just a minute. But before I do, what's your EDC? What's Alan Baker's EDC? What's your everyday carry consist of? Your knife? Your gun?
The 17 appendix. Generally, right next to it is straight blade. This one actually was made by Tim Wade. He teaches Pakiti Tertia. One of the better knife fighters that I train with.
Let's see your retention system.
Say again.
I'll see your retention system too. Hold that up. Okay. Kydex, loop.
Yep. And it usually will sit just like that, right next to the gun.
Okay.
And then actually, right pocket, which is part of what I teach in TAC. It's a blunt instrument, depending on the level of the exchange.
Got that exact same flashlight.
Oh, great minds.
It's one of them. I've got like 50. I've got them I'm obsessed with flashlights, so I've got them 2 or 3 in every room.
Such a great tool. The only drawback to that one is that thing right there. That's a little clip on it. That'll go through your hand with the wrong grip. So yeah. I've yet to try to fix it, but learned that one the hard way.
I just do it as a hand carry. I got a different one that I have a clip on, but ASP, ASP, they do handcuffs and batons and things like that. They make a great flashlight also. You got to look into those.
Okay. I'll check it out.
Dual fuel. So you can have the CR123s or the AAAs or whatever, or they've got the rechargeables where you can charge them up. So either way you can go with those. I like the ability to have the dual fuel for the lights. So your flashlight, your knife, your 17. Any other little surprises you carry?
I have a Neo Mag clip. It holds
Neo
the mag.
Mag. Neo Mag.
Yeah, right inside the pocket. It's a pretty good little setup.
Are you carrying 2 extra mags, 1 extra mag with you?
Some days I'll have one in the belt too.
I have one of those somewhere too.
It just holds it right inside the pocket.
Yeah.
So that's been the carry here lately.
Looking for mine. I got it. See, I would think that you would have like a what are those knives? The curved ones.
Karambit.
Karambits. Yeah, I would expect you to have a karambit instead of a sword.
No.
Carrying a sword.
Yeah, I mean, once you start to look at blade fighting, the fundamentals, and you know what is required, and how you're going to use that tool to create a wall of metal between you and the bad guy, Karambit doesn't do that very well. Karambit's kind of designed for a one-way street. The other guy doesn't have anything. I like them, but and it also is a downward blade where this is in a upper position, which is more range, reach. So you've got to you've got to own close range, which is difficult if they have a tool as well. So that's why I choose that, and the length. You know, one of the things you're looking for in a knife is to have the ability to reach off buttons. So shorter blades might not go deep enough to find them. So, you know, a good blade length, in the Philippines, they say it is a fatal thrust. It's not a fatal slash. And so I want something that's going to reach that button.
There you go. All right, let's go to some listener questions now. And start off with this Pew Pew RN. What type of diet do you follow to stay in shape?
I eat a lot of chicken and veggies.
Are you on like a strict diet? I mean, for lack of a better term, is there like a diet regime that you stick with, or you just eat what you want?
I track a lot of the meals that I take in on a app called MyFitnessPal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it allows me to kind of keep track of what I'm putting in on a daily basis.
You're very conscious of what you're eating.
Yeah, and if I'm training more on those days, I can adjust for, like, if we go in and roll for a couple hours, you're burning a lot of calories. So, you know, you'll go in and overeat after that because you're just starving. So the app kind of helps you track what's available to you after something like that. So it helps me kind of adjust. You know, I might have a day where I'm not as active. I'm just bought some equipment for the garage too to start making more strength training.
Are you going to actually use it, or are you going to? Is it going to turn into?
Oh yeah, I've been a gym nut since I was 14.
Yeah, I have too, but I have to go to the gym. I've tried the home gym and equipment, and it ends up as, you know, laundry, and I have to actually go to the gym. I've
been going for a while. I had a break last year due to 2 major surgeries, and the doctors like put his foot down. So I kind of got out of the habit. I got released to start getting back in gear first of this year, and my schedule is insane, even at home in the home office. So, but you know, I've had equipment before.
Is that part of your morning routine?
That's what I'm going to do. Is once Rogue comes through on its delivery, that's going to be part of what we're going to do in the mornings when we get up.
Now, is it a free weight kind of deal, or is it a machine?
It's going to be a power rack, a couple of benches with it, and I got a dumbbell rack with it as well.
Okay, cool. Or is it
a lot of the old school
dumbbells,
basics?
or dial it in dumbbells?
The old school ones.
The old school ones? Nice.
Yeah. They even had the old Olympic deep dish plates.
No way.
Yeah, they started coming out with them, you know, like way back.
Yeah.
And that's what I saw them. I was like, I'm getting those.
Bring back the old gym days from high school. Nice. He also asked your everyday carry. We just talked about that. I had asked you about supplements earlier. What are you taking supplements? Are you doing creatine? You doing anything like that? Branched chain amino acids, protein, extra protein. What are you doing with that?
I will use like protein mixes, and depending on training, creatine. I've actually started putting that in a little more in the last 5 years, just due to hydration. It really helps get the muscles hydrated.
It does.
As you get a little further along the journey, that seems to be a struggle. And turmeric, I put a lot of that in for inflammation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you doing your own mixtures of this, or are you going and getting shit off the shelf, pre-mixed stuff?
I will get it on a website, and they'll just send it to me in bulk.
Yeah. So you're getting like the turmeric, you're getting the creatine, you're getting all this stuff individual, and then you're making your own mixes with it?
Yeah. I'll just mix it into different drinks, or I'll mix it into the coffee and drink it.
Coffee. Is that your pre-workout? Coffee?
Yeah. I'm a big coffee fan. Yeah. Cheers.
I never could get it.
Make the guys happy, and look at that. Cheers.
There you
I'll
go.
have to tag them now.
Who is it?
Pale Horse Coffee.
Pale Horse
right down
Coffee.
the street from Redmond in Virginia Beach.
Okay.
Great guys.
Oh, I'll bet they are. I just never got into the taste of coffee. I couldn't do it. So I do pre-workout stuff, mixes.
Yeah.
Coffee never really did anything for me either. I have to get the higher concentration, I guess, of the caffeine that's in some of this stuff. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But the stuff I'm taking now, I don't get the crash or anything. It's just it's a constant, like energy level.
Yeah, that's cool.
So it hits pretty quick, and then it maintains, and I don't have a crash like I would with caffeine.
Have you seen the mushroom coffee?
I've heard of it. Anything with mushrooms, I'm afraid to delve.
It's interesting. One of my instructors turned me on to it, and it was actually pretty good.
Yeah,
I was surprised. Yeah.
Is it the? It's not the. I'm trying to think of the name of that mushroom, but yeah, I've seen it, but I haven't tried it yet. But so you say it works pretty good?
Yeah, I was surprised by it when I tried it. I wasn't expecting it to be good, but it was actually pretty good. Yeah.
There's a lot of I've been delving more into more of the holistic, natural supplements, and they seem to work just as good. And especially if you do the research on it and you get the quantities and the mixtures of what works good with what, because some of them they don't work by themselves. You got to get something else to activate it, kind of. So, so I've been kind of messing around with that a little bit. Next question. For someone who has never trained in martial arts, what would be the best practice to begin with, like jiu-jitsu, taekwondo, etc.? It's Fled Munitions asked that. Somebody just starting into the martial arts, where would you point them?
Well, there are different options: stand-up, striking, grappling. So it kind of depends, I would say, on what you enjoy doing, because that's going to have a big influence on you being consistent and continue to do it in the future. And where you go and the culture that place creates will also have a huge influence on it. And so, for me, I would choose something that is a grappling-related system and something that is a striking-related system, just baseline, so that you get some decent answers in those two areas. So jiu-jitsu, catch wrestling, combat submission.
What's that?
Catch as catch can. A lot of the WWE was a branch off of old school catch wrestling. You'll have to look up the history of catch wrestling, but it's been coming more to the forefront in the United States, and in very aggressive system. And so another thing to look at would be shoot boxing or shoot wrestling, combat submission wrestling. All our grappling systems, basically, you're going to see some that are a little more aggressive and some that are a little more defensive. Yeah. The system can vary. And then on the stand-up side, Muay Thai boxing is always a excellent answer for your stand-up. Of course, it depends on what's close to you. You have to do the research and find out what's available. Other stand-up options would be, I think he mentioned taekwondo.
Jiu-jitsu, taekwondo, etc. I think he's just throwing some stuff out there to get you.
Yeah, that would be an option depending on, do you just want to go down to the corner and train, or are you willing to travel and get under a good instructor?
Let's say that you've got all the options available to you, and I'm coming to you. I'm saying, Alan, I want to get started in martial arts, and I don't know what I like, or, if I need to stand up or sit down. Which one should I just cut my teeth with?
Okay, so we've got access to everything.
I've got access to everything. Yeah.
We'll look at a principle called the combat blueprint. Are you ready?
Okay. Yeah.
Because we're going to approach this as unsystemized thought. A lot of martial arts will have a particular way they think. They have a belief system that comes with it, and a lot of times you get trained in that belief system too. So I refer to avoiding that as being unsystemized. And just taking a look at combat in between two human machines, regardless of the system. You've got some primal environments that are going to happen, trained or untrained, and they can vary. But in my opinion, you have firearms, edged and blunt weaponry, which means could be the knife I'm carrying, it could be the salt shaker on the table at the restaurant. Sure. Whatever I can get my hands on, that's a blunt instrument. Next is striking. Next in is going to be pummeling, hand fighting pummeling, and then obviously ground work, because gravity is not just a good idea, it's the law. And there's in my opinion, multiple areas of study on the ground, not just grappling. Grappling is only one of them. So if we're going to build our training program, we would want to have a good answer, simplified in each of these areas, to make sure that we are training and not having any gaps in our training. We would look for something on the firearm side, look for a good source of information for bladed weaponry and blunt instruments, a good source of information for striking, like Thai, a good source of hand fighting and pummeling. Combat submission wrestling is excellent for this. And then, a source of information for the ground would be jiu-jitsu. That's going to introduce the grappling idea in that range. But for me, you also have a subsystem of anti-grappling, ground fighting, which, could loosely be looked at as MMA, but let's say you also have to worry about a second or third dude. And I can cheat. Another area is going to be out of position fighting. I nickname it, I borrow this term from other systems, dog boxing. And then grounded weapons fighting. Not grappling with a weapon, but what to do if I am having that struggle and I want to cheat. So if we have this blueprint, then we can go out and look and see where can we find information to plug into each one to build our own methodology and keep it simple. So you may borrow information from a Filipino martial artist for the edged weaponry. Like we said, we may go to a Thai boxing class for striking. We may do a jiu-jitsu class for grappling. And that way you're going to have a good solid blueprint and a good solid foundation of training that's going to be there if you need it, because you don't always get to choose where the fight happens. I might not be able to stand up and strike. Maybe the fight happens while I'm sitting at a table in a restaurant, or it is a carjacking. They have come up, pulled the door open, and right there you have to have the fight sitting in your car. You don't always get to choose the environment. So if we're truly looking for war art, combat science, we kind of have to look at it outside of what an organized structure of a martial art and put it together ourselves. Build our own self-education. Now, that's not always available. Like we just said, we just got the buffet of martial arts.
Have the buffet.
So if we
Is
don't
this something
have
that
that,
you lay out in your books?
This is C-Tac. This is one of the primary training principles of civilian tactical. We everything we do in that system, we try to approach it from a non-systemized view based on the human machine and what we need in a violent encounter in our culture. And that could vary. I mean, if it were in the UK, then, maybe the bladed weaponry or the firearm would not be on the blueprint. But we know that, and we're building it for our own culture and environment. We would just have to make the adjustment, but you can. And you don't have a system determining it for you.
Right.
Yeah.
Next question. This comes from Mustang Perry. He says, Would Alan have any tips on introducing a young daughter to a martial art for her to be able to defend herself? What is a good age to start? What type style would be the best for a smaller girl? Does that philosophy that you just went over change because of gender?
Well, if we have access to all of those things, I would give the same answer. So, but not everybody does. You know, I might live in a town where I only have maybe a jiu-jitsu school. I might only have a Thai boxing or a Filipino martial arts school. And, you know, the question would be, what am I preparing her for? And one thing to take into consideration, too, is like not all fights start as a fight. You know, there's a social buildup. There's a verbal exchange. It gets heated, but it's not quite to the force for assault level exchange. And this is where a lot of people get lost. They're like, whoa, my teacher told me to make a fist and hit this person. Can I do that yet? Am I allowed to at this point? He hasn't really hit me. He hasn't grabbed onto me yet. So I don't want to get in trouble, because if I just do this, then I might get in trouble for assault. Well, that should be an art. It should be a study. So that's not offered in martial arts. So, but I would say have that discussion with the young lady so she knows what those boundaries, those social boundaries are, and then how to navigate them, how to understand distance and to maintain that while I'm having the exchange. Where should my hands be? What verbal tactics should I be using? And then if the threat forces it to that level, then a lot of options you can find locally. You know, if I end up on the ground, jiu-jitsu may be one. For me, one of the first things I'd teach my daughter is Filipino martial arts, because the blade is an equalizer. You know, if it is pressed to that point.
More afraid of blades than they are guns.
Yeah. So yes, a little bit of the previous answer, but I would also have that discussion about that social exchange prior to assault level exchange. You know, and there's some de-escalation is involved in there, but just intelligently navigating that and the extended situation that is generally around it. Hopefully you would be able to navigate out of it. And if you're really good at it, it forces the threat to show their cards. You know, it's going to, in other words, make more of a scene. And if his intent is to put his hands on the person, then he has to commit more, because you are good at de-escalation. You're good at maintaining distance. And that commitment answers that question of when. He shows me his cards. It's like, okay, it's time to go. And this is what Dad showed me to do, and I'm on it now. So that would be a really good study to take into consideration prior to martial arts.
I agree. Yeah, definitely. What is there an age? Is there a certain age that you're like, you know, if they're not this age, don't start them? Or
it depends on the personality. Kids, you'll have 4 of them in front of you, and all of them have a vastly different personality, vastly different attention span. I've had some very young ones that are very sharp, and vice versa. So generally, the ones that are a little more on game, younger, can start. If they struggle focusing, maybe they need to wait a year or so before they go in. So it's hard to say a specific age. I've seen.
What would cause you to turn down someone for your class?
Well, in a class environment, disruption of the class, because you might have 20 kids in there. All of them are doing pretty good, toes on the line, and I have one disruption, and I go spend 5 minutes trying to handle that, and everyone else in the class has to suffer that. So that's one of the determining factors, unfortunately. But another option is private training. I've actually had quite a few clients over the years who, in order to counter that, they would put their kids in private training once a week. And so you are solely focused on that child for an hour. Which is another option. If you can find someone that can do that, that's a great option. And another nice thing about that is they have the ability to adjust the curriculum for the individual. Maybe if they are struggling with self-confidence or some other thing, generally the instructor can make some adjustments to help with that also. Mm-hmm. And it's a little tougher to do in a class where you've got 20, 25 individuals that you're responsible for.
Yeah. Would you prefer, or do you prefer working with a class or one-on-one individually?
I like both, but if I had to choose one, private, I enjoy making those adjustments for clients. Yeah. I like when I first meet a client, I'll have an interview with them and find out what their overall goals are, and designing a training program specifically for them. They may say, I work here, I drive this, I'm in this type of building, I walk down this type of hallway, and I do this every day. So that information helps me design the program. Sure. You're right. Maybe I'm in a hostile environment and I have this type of hostility that I deal with on a regular basis. Perfect. If I know that, I can design the program specifically for them. So I enjoy program design and building and watching individuals, blossom when they have something that is specifically built for them. So between the two, I would have to pick private training.
Sure. Nothing to be ashamed about that.
Get an additional $25 off plus 2 extra magazines when you use the code AK Corner at pioneerarmsus.com. That's Alpha, Kilo, Kilo, Oscar, Romeo, November, Echo, Romeo.
Let's see. Next question. These are all kind of the same, but just kind of specialized, I guess. So Jerry Black asked, what discipline would you suggest for a mid-50s-year-old man in good health and pretty good physical condition begin with for self-defense training or training to protect the loved ones from an attack? Kind of specific there.
Yeah. Any system will work for any age if you have a good instructor. A good instructor will be able to make the adjustments to fit anything you're dealing with, age, an injury, that sort of thing, and keep you moving and active. So, you would want something on a baseline that's going to give you some information to deal with a striking environment and a grappling environment. Now, another part of that question was protecting a third party. Now, generally, most martial arts consider I'm protecting me. You're attacking me, and my plan is to deal with it. That changes a little bit when I'm protecting a third party, and the threat is, interested in the third party. So you would want to start to take that into consideration a little bit. This is something that a lot of protection agents take into consideration because it's a different type of protection. Because the threat's generally not concerned about you. They are fixated on somebody else. So the tactics you use and how you have to adjust them changes a little bit. And again, if we look at the social element that we discussed earlier, that makes when and where to do it a little more of a challenge. So, we would want to spend some time taking that into consideration and how we're going to handle those things. Now, with that said, you would also have to take a look at what you have available to you locally. Do some research, and like we said on the combat blueprint, maybe that'll give you a little look at the different options we're looking for. Maybe some weaponry type training, striking, pummeling, or hand fighting, which is standing grappling, and then something to answer if I end up on the ground. Sometimes not all schools will offer different options. Many of them will go, we do this one thing, and that's okay. Because you could make anything work. Even if it is a standing situation, if I can grab you and put you on the ground, then okay, now we're grappling. But you can see that if I can have an answer standing, I'd prefer to stay on my feet. So sometimes you have to kind of piece it together a little bit on your own.
Yeah. So boxing.
Could be, right?
Take a boxing class, Jerry. I'm just kidding. I think that wraps up most of the questions there. Like I said, a lot of these are the same thing, just asking it different ways. As far as go back to a different view there, as far as the the 40 years experience that you've had, all the different disciplines that you've trained in, taught, have you ever thought about coming up with your own discipline or method or martial art? The Alan Baker Sue or whatever.
Yes. I mean, it kind of happened by accident or default. I never set out to build it, but to go back to the C-Tac program, that is what that is. I started from an outside view and tried to start putting that curriculum together based on what the average citizen needs in our culture to deal with multiple levels of violence. Just like law enforcement, we'll have a scale that we have to take into consideration. We need answers for low-level violence, a low-level social exchange, up through an assault. Now I'm in a fight. And then from there it could go up to lethal force. How do I deal with that? If I'm armed, if I'm not. So, and it's good to have a force continuum, even as a civilian, because, well, like we say, one of the things we look for is we're looking for it to be legally explicable. So if we have an understanding of how that works, it helps us explain it if we had to after an event, which makes a lot of difference sometimes on the outcome.
Yeah. And this was something I was going to ask about, and I see it right here in your C-Tac course, is do you do any sort of medical training? Because in any course that I've ever taken, firearms or self-defense or anything, they're always, you're going to need to know how to save someone else's life, before you're going to need to draw your gun or your knife, or whatever. Odds are you're going to run across somebody who has a medical emergency before this is ever going to happen. And they always suggest getting medical training, which I have had pretty extensive. What degree of medical training teaching do you offer in your courses?
Well, we will start with the basics. TAC has 3 phases up to a black level, and so it introduces you to the basics, like a tourniquet, that sort of thing. And then as you go through the system, I think the last camp we had, we started looking at tactical medicine, but in a consideration of a firearm incident. And we actually have a camp coming up next week, and one of our instructors is the tactical medic for a local law enforcement agency here in Georgia, and he's going to be starting to look at that in and around vehicles and having to stage behind cover. So yeah, it's he progresses it nicely. And of course, we will have guys there for the first time. They just joined the association, and they'll be starting with the basics. And in the class, you'll practice it. We have a drill we play called the sidewalk drill, and it's role play. Somebody will come up to you and start a conversation. It may elevate and get heated. So you have to deal with that elevation. It might not be a fight yet, and you can't just go. You have to do it at the right time. And
now,
so,
are you teaching de-escalation skills also in these courses?
Yes, it's a major part of that first social exchange. Where to place yourself if contact is made and the threat forces contact, how to do it appropriately so that you're not insulting and escalating it. You're trying to bring it down up until a point. And if you're good at it, it forces them, we say, to super elevate. They have to double the amount of effort to push it over that assault line.
Yeah.
Which is good for us. It's good for us visually. And it's also good for us mentally because we're like, okay, now's the time. I can't tell you how many students.
You don't want to de-escalate. Sometimes you just want to punch the motherfucker in the face,
Well, sometimes if you're good at that social exchange and setup, it will help you visually be legally in the right place to do it.
Right. Exactly.
In other words, if somebody were recording it or watching it,
right.
and they were going to be talking about it later.
Yeah.
Man, that guy right there was the good guy, no doubt.
Sometimes that doesn't even work, but
yeah.
So the C-Tac is kind of your amalgamation of all the years of training and all the different disciplines that you've learned, kind of putting it into this, and this is the Alan Baker method.
Yeah, the one that's mostly self-defense or self-offense orientated.
Self-offense, yeah.
Right.
We were talking about that. You said you're in the works with a couple of more books. Is this one of the books that you have in the works?
One of them that's coming up is just a training manual. One of my peers, Joe Arturo with VDI, I teach a lot at events with him, and he's always liked my teaching methods. They're very unique coming out of the martial arts industry, and so he wanted to put this together to teach his methodology and to teach some of mine. And then the one I actually have finished, and it's sitting with the editor now, is on designing your own self-education system. I'm not a big believer in systemized education.
Yeah.
I think they leave us wanting. You always hear people, man, they just don't teach that in school. I wish they taught that in school.
Yeah.
Well,
or what
ultimately
is horseshit.
Yeah. And ultimately, as warriors, or with the warrior mentality, we take command of it. We go, okay, even though I may be in that system, I'm going to build my own system. I know myself. I know how I learn, and I know the areas that I need training in. And I'll seek out mentors and information and start to build my own education system. And then I can just sprinkle in information from the systems out there or the different places.
Right.
Because it comes down to it, your growth has a direct effect on where you're going and your success. So that's why it's so important to take command of it. And for me, I didn't get a lot of entrepreneurial direction. And, I was fortunate to have a student at one time who had a lot of that. And it was self-taught. And he took the time to go, I want you to think about these things. And his learning opened up that whole world for me. And then I started looking for more information and realized just how much you don't know. And that knowledge over the years has helped me build freedom, build the machines and put the things in place to be able to travel and train and go pick out the Guru Anasanos and spend 4 or 5 days in LA, and which you could use in any focus. But
in all your travels, in all these classes and courses and disciplines, and I mean, you're a student. Obviously, you're a student first. You're always wanting to learn, and how do I say this? What's the stupidest thing you ever heard, I guess, or somebody tried to teach you?
Oh, wow.
What's this you just couldn't get your mind around? You're like, this is so useless. What's the purpose in this?
Man.
Have you ever had one of those moments?
I'm sure I have. It's whether or not I could mentally hang on to it long enough to talk about it.
I mean, there's got to be one of those moments where you're sitting and it's like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? Yeah.
Probably more moments when I say, what the fuck did I just do?
Yeah.
Because I can remember those moments. I'm going to do this thing and it's going to work.
Yeah.
And I'm going to invest into it and put time in it. And then, 6 months to a year later, you're like, what the hell was I thinking?
But isn't that how we learn those from our failures? I mean, that's the best way to learn is to fail.
Oh, yeah. Failure is an amazing teacher. It makes us wisdom seekers.
Yeah.
We don't need to run from that at all. We need to run to it. We need to create opportunities to fail more often.
I just thought it'd be interesting is like if there was like a discipline that you went to learn and you're like, no, this is completely useless. Is there like a completely useless discipline that somebody should just stay away from? Like Taibo.
I'm not going to go there.
Okay. I thought that'd be I'm with you. So you're a new guy, and I have this line of new guy questions that I ask my new guys typically, and we've kind of gone through a lot of them inadvertently, but I'm just going to kind of skip through and pick a few that we haven't really talked about. So you're from Tennessee originally, Cleveland, Tennessee. Just we were practically neighbors growing up. Did you play sports or anything like that? Were you football, baseball? Did you do anything like that?
No, I was so eat up in the martial arts. That's all I did.
Okay, because I know that I think we played Cleveland in.
Oh yeah, I was in Bradley.
Yeah, so I don't know where I was going with that question. Cleveland, Tennessee. I grew up with firearms, shotguns, rifles, hunting. Did you do any of that growing up? What was your earliest recollection of a firearm, using a firearm?
Pistols. We, at the time, our property backed up against a undeveloped mountain, really. And so you could go off.
Oh, those mountains in Cleveland, Tennessee, I tell you, boy.
And you could go off back there and find a good spot, and and the uncle or dad we'd play, and they'd introduce you to how to properly handle a firearm, and you'd spend the day out there. So that was the first memory I have of it.
And how old were you?
Oh, I was probably 12 or 13 at that time.
Were these revolvers or were they semi-auto pistols? Do you remember?
Started out with revolvers. I think one was a .22 rifle.
Okay.
And then an uncle, because it became kind of a regular thing that we did, and an uncle brought out a automatic one time and started getting to play with that.
Nice. Very good. We talked about the military, law enforcement, no military law enforcement background, but you do have and have had a lot of interaction with, obviously, law enforcement and military types.
Yep. Raised by them. A lot of my mentors and instructors are ex-military, and they, I got brought up in it. Here's how to make a bed. Here's how to be a gentleman. Here's the list. I expect you to do all these things. Here is how you develop a warrior's code. And I want you to look at these different examples, and you're going to make your own. I want you to bring it to me. Code of ethics. Here's some examples. Go make one, bring it back. So I got introduced to a lot of those things from those guys over the years. One of the reasons why I'm, so much respect, love them.
Do you have brothers and sisters?
I do not. Huge family. Mom was probably 10 or 11 brothers and sisters. So
wow.
Yeah, the house was full of cousins all the time. I probably didn't even know.
Yeah,
I was an only child. But I think Mom was actually planning on 3 because that was the standard in the family. You look at the other sisters and brothers, they had 2s and 3s. Mom had 1. I think I was a little more trouble than the rest of them. So she put the brakes on.
That's weird because both my mom and my dad had big families. They had 5, 6 brothers and sisters each, and then they the brothers and sisters had like 3 kids each. It was like you said, 3 to 4 was kind of like the standard for those. And then, as it scaled down my generation, I don't have any kids at all. And then my brothers, one has 1 and one has 2. It just seems like they get smaller and smaller. And I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah.
Families aren't as big as they used to be. I think there's a lot of social, economical reasons why that has happened, and we're seeing that nowadays. But Idiocracy, is upon us. Have you seen that movie, Idiocracy?
Yeah.
It's becoming reality.
What the hell?
And we've established that you don't watch a lot of TV, but growing up, you did watch movies and partake in some of the pop culture. When it comes to pop culture, what's kind of your go-to? What's your favorite? Whether it's a movie, a book. I don't know if you're into comic books, or are you into podcasts now? You listen to podcasts. What do you kind of do? Just kick back and relax and reminisce.
Well, I mean, when I do watch a movie, it's probably one of them I was introduced years ago. Fight Club was one of the most recent ones. The Terminator, Highlander. Yeah.
Fight Club.
Recently,
what was that other guy? Edward Norton. Yeah, that was a good movie.
Yeah. And most recently, the Avengers and that type of thing, like everyone else.
Yeah.
I got into that one because of the comics. When we were younger,
I was going to ask, did you have comics when you were growing up?
Well, it took a little while for me to get involved. When I was teaching at an academy in Chattanooga, I ran the kids class, and it's a huge kids class, and the kids would bring them. And they go, hey, at the time I was C-Bach, they go, hey, C-Bach, you got to read this. And I'd take it in the office and I'd set it in a stack. So after like 4 years, I had this huge stack in the office behind the door. And one day I'm sitting in the office with a buddy of mine, and he's like, dude, I didn't know you read comics. I'm like, I don't. The kids bring them, and I don't want to throw them away. They're like a gift. So I went and I grabbed one. And I go, all right, I'm going to check it out. And it was Wolverine. I remember reading it, and I was thinking, this is going to be, like cartoons.
Kooky, yeah.
Yeah, and this wild killing machine. So I was like, this is fantastic. I probably went through that whole stack in like 6 months.
And you're like, we're going to get more of these.
Yeah. At that point, I ended up going, where do I get more? And asking the kids, where do you get this? And I think I got an online subscription, so they just sent them to the academy.
That's funny.
So that's how I got introduced to them. So when
how old were you at the time?
Oh, wow.
Like in your late 20s or what?
Yeah, late 20s, somewhere in there, early 30s. Wow. It all runs together.
Right? Exactly. Sometimes I think I'm still 30. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm a grown-ass adult. What's going on here?
Yeah, keep it down. Don't say it out loud.
I know it. If you could own anything, whether it's a vehicle or anything, a plane, an island. If you had the money be damned, laws be damned, what would you own?
Well, the first thing that pops in my head is real estate.
Land?
That's the entrepreneur in me.
Yeah.
And all the opportunities that would come along with it.
How would you develop this land, and how big a land would you envision?
Oh, wow. Well, I'd do 2 things. One would be continue. I've always developed real estate for rental properties. And so I would continue to grow that. It's something that I've worked on since probably the late 90s.
Okay.
But I would also, I'd build a compound.
A compound,
Yeah.
a martial arts compound.
Oh man, here we go.
Huh?
So we'd have to get about 20 acres that is within reach of some cliff face, some running water, some place to rappel, climb, hike, and then we got to put a house on it. You got to have one of those, and then we're going to need a rappel tower, and it's going to be a beast. And then probably put a garden out there. I would have an academy. Probably put a gym in that academy. One floor would be a mat, the other floor would be equipment. So I wouldn't have to pay someone else to get up and go in the morning. A range.
Nice.
Of course. So my friends will have a reason to come over, right?
I like your way of thinking. I like that.
Then we're going to need a guest house because, who's not going to want to come hang out?
I mean, why not just put a hotel up?
That's
Just
a good
put a hotel.
idea.
Money
I
be
like
damned.
that.
Money's
good
no
stuff.
object. Hell yeah.
Then we'll need some vehicles to run around to make it over to the cliff face.
You'd start a cult.
Yeah, one person cult. There you go.
You'd have a cult. You invite all the like-minded individuals to your cult. You would train them in the finer arts of C-Tac. You take them scuba diving, and then after a little scuba dive, you might do some rappelling off this mountain.
I guess we need to build a pool too, something deep enough to practice
Why
our
not
skills.
just have it out by the ocean somewhere? You got land that's got the mountain and the ocean. So
Man, that's a hell of a piece of land. I like it though. Let's do it. Money means nothing.
money, no object. Laws don't come into play. I like that. You think big. I get a lot of people that's like, I'd buy F-150 Raptor. It's like, wait a minute. Think bigger. Think bigger. That's awesome.
Get my own satellite system like Batman.
Yeah.
There
Hell
we
yeah.
go.
Tap into everybody's phone and know what everybody's thinking, what everybody's doing. Hell yeah.
Your phone does know what you're thinking.
I guarantee when we get off, and it'll probably be all kinds of kung fu stuff come up.
Some
and
crazy advertisements for everything we've talked about.
Yeah. Bruce Lee or Chuck Norris?
Bruce Lee.
Okay. Is that because of you're the guru?
Yeah.
Or do you actually feel that Bruce Lee was better than Chuck Norris?
I think he was mentally decades ahead of everybody around him. The way he thought and the way he put together his methodology and his system. I think due to that thinking, although he, it wasn't a large person, I think it would put him ahead of a lot of people. At that time, a lot of people only focused on one system or only one range. And one of the things he did mentally at that time, he said, if I have somebody in front of me that's a striker and that's all they do, and if I line up and they start having the mannerisms of a striker, first thing I'm going to do is put them on the ground. I'll take them out of their element. Or I'll draw a knife. They may go, oh, wow, I don't train a knife. I don't want any of that. But if they are, say, a Filipino martial artist, they may smile at you and pull one out themselves. So I need to take them out of their element. And he was doing that mentally, and he was training for that at that time when it was very unusual. It was actually looked at as a bad thing. So just due to that understanding, I think that put him ahead of a lot of people. Now, today it's common. You see mixing of arts or mixed martial arts. But, since the early 90s. And if you take into consideration shoot boxing and Shudo, late 70s, early 80s, they were actually doing MMA way before what we consider MMA.
Yeah.
But Bruce Lee was thinking about it even before that.
Are you into the MMA? Do you follow the MMA at all?
Not
professional MMA?
Much. I probably did a little bit in the 90s. The reason I follow it now.
Is there MMA in the 90s? Wasn't that Ultimate Fighting? Is that what that was then?
I keep up with it now because of one of my good friends, instructor, Coach Eric Paulson. He is training some of the talent of the future right now. And, when he travels, and right now he'll corner fighters that he's training, and usually if I know he's cornering somebody, I'll try to be somewhere to watch it. But that's pretty much the extent of keeping up with it right now.
All right, last question. If you could spend the day, and this is just superficial, if you could spend the day at the range, it could be anywhere, with anybody, living, dead, fictional, and it could be a group of people. You could spend the day with someone or a group of people. Who would it be and why? Living, dead, fictional.
Oh, wow. I'd say Ed Gonzalez over in Virginia Beach, Jay Redmond, all of the Tactical 21 guys. I'd get Dennis Razoo, good friend of mine, a firearms instructor, and I'd bring him along because they're my friends.
That sounds like a good group right there.
Yeah. And, I can't think of a better day than getting all of them together on the range and just having a good time. So, yeah, it's the first people that come to mind.
I like it. Your tribe, as you call it.
Right.
Your tribe. I like it. All right, I said that was the last question, but I got one more because I got to see what kind of mindset you're in actually. Bigfoot or UFOs?
Oh, wow. UFOs.
UFOs. So aliens. You believe that there are aliens?
Oh, I didn't say I believed in them. Yeah, you made me pick one. I picked one.
It's a leading question. It's a leading question.
That's
So,
a tough question too.
do you believe in UFOs?
Oh, wow.
And I say UFOs, alien. Like, do you believe that there are aliens among us?
What is the new telescope that they put up, and it's taking all these. No, there was another one that they recently.
Oh, there's one after the Hubble. I don't know.
Yeah,
Oh.
and it has been capturing some amazing footage, and every now and then I'll read something that talks about just the vastness that they're starting to find out there right now, and they're finding so much information that it is challenging our current levels of science and making those guys rethink things.
Yeah.
Something that vast. It's hard to believe maybe there's not something out there.
Right. But is it here? Has it been here?
Who knows?
Do you think it has?
I would base it on my own personal experience, which I do a lot because I don't get to watch TV and all that crazy stuff. So I have to kind of go by my interaction with my immediate circle. I've never seen, or I don't have anyone close to me that has seen or experienced that. When I have that conversation, I go, well, have you ever seen anything? Do you know anybody? And most of the time the answer is no. So that's a very limited scope, but that's my experience. Yeah.
Okay. What about Bigfoot? Do you think there could be a Bigfoot?
Oh, wow. I've got friends that do believe in Bigfoot.
Oh, yeah?
I've got friends that do believe in UFOs. They troll me all the time, which is how I even know anything about it. Oh, wow. I've seen some stuff running around in the woods a few times after a couple of days of not drinking or eating anything. But I'm pretty sure it was a black bear.
You got a hold of one of those mushrooms and
but same thing. I've no personal experience other than Alan Hopkins. He swears. He's a buddy of mine. If he's watching this,
from Cleveland, Tennessee.
No, I believe he's in Alabama. So Alan, if you're watching this, here's a shout out to you and Bigfoot.
Alan, I want to hear about your Bigfoot experience. Come on the show and let's talk about it.
Oh, there you go.
Let's get your dirty laundry out in public here. No, I think that's a fun question just to see where people stand on.
I'd love to meet him. I'd love to grapple him.
Bigfoot?
Hell yeah! What a better way to go out of this world. Can you imagine the headlines?
Well, I mean, if you're wanting to go out, then yeah.
Alan Baker dies trying to choke Bigfoot. Hey, man, you can't get better than that.
One, Alan Baker discovers Bigfoot. Two, he
I could choke this guy out.
He challenges him one-on-one to the death and chokes him out. Wouldn't that be something? Alan
Actually
Baker.
pulling it off, that would be something. That'd be
well,
a photo of the year. They'd have to put me on the front of a magazine.
You know all the pressure points and everything. So, I mean,
We'd
who
give it a
better
shot.
to take? Man, that could be a movie. We could make a movie about that.
Like Cocaine Bear.
Alan Baker takes down Bigfoot.
Big choke, Bigfoot.
Big choke, Bigfoot. All right, Alan, we've had fun today. I appreciate you taking the time and indulging me with my stupid questions. Where can people learn more about you? Your website, is that the main place where they need to go? I know you got an Instagram page.
Yeah, the main one would be the website, Sifu Alan Baker, SIFU Alan Baker. And there's every other site that I have several, is connected to that one. So that's probably the best place to go to. And if you enter in Sifu Alan Baker on most of the social media, you'll find me.
I think I got it right here. Let me, is this this is the website here. That's where we're looking at the training schedule there. So also you've got some video training. Talk about the video training. We didn't talk about that.
Yeah, I've got a video training suit. There's 3 archives on there. One is more jiu-jitsu focused. It's a program called Living Mechanics. It has a very heavy self-defense fundamental foundation. When I started wearing a gun and a knife and grappling, I realized that I had to change some things. I had to change the way my basics, what way I was doing them. Some of the techniques I was using, I had to change because they weren't conducive to having a firearm on. And so over the years, like I said earlier, I'm terrible at creating curriculum and making lists. So I started putting this together for myself, and because I wanted to develop and start to change the habits that I were putting in my nervous system, and it became this curriculum. So it can kind of exist in the jiu-jitsu world, but it is also designed to exist in the self-defense or the EDC world. The second one is the Warriors Path program, and it is a kind of an online archive that I talk about a lot of those life tools that were in the books, and I kind of go into more detail on some of the things like the full cycle breath, the various strength training, and the coaching program that I run is connected to that as well. But that archive, that's what that's about. And then the C-Tac student archive. I actually have 2. One is the instructor training archive. It is part of the association. But the one on the website is the student archive for individuals that aren't interested in participating in the camps. They're just looking to access that information and start changing their mindset a little bit based on a lot of things we talked about today.
Okay, very good. And they go to your website and they get access to all this. There's a link to the podcast. I was talking about the podcast. I know my listeners would enjoy that. So guys, go and subscribe. I guess it's on any of the podcasting apps. I was listening on Spotify is where I was listening on. That's kind of my go-to. And then do you have a YouTube channel? You do anything on YouTube? BoobTube?
Yes, it's under the same hook, SifuAlanBaker.com.
Okay. Is there a link on your website?
Yes. If you, I think on the podcast page, there's a link to go to the YouTube channel, and it has the video of the podcast, and I do different videos on self-defense.
If you just scan down to the bottom of his webpage, all the links, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, BoobTube, and Amazon. I guess that's where they get the books.
Mm-hmm.
Amazon's, and the 3 books are available. When can we look for the next series of books to come out? You got a ETA on those yet?
Well, on the number 4, I'm waiting on Joe Artura to finish his half of the book. Joe,
Come on, Joe. Get your ass in here, son.
And number 5 is at the editor right now, and he's working on it. I'm kind of shooting for next year sometime for that one. It's the biggest book I've written.
Who's your publisher for that?
I'm probably going to self-publish.
Self-publish?
Yeah. I don't have. I'm not big enough to have a publisher. I'm a little fish.
Well, you probably are making out better than some people that have the big publishers too, because
It has surprised me. I've got to say, I didn't expect it to do what it's doing now. But it's just one of those things that was on the list. I'm like, I'm going to do this, and then I haven't stopped. So
there you go. And what's new for Alan coming up? What can people expect from Alan other than the books? What else you got planned, new and exciting?
Oh, well, I'm doing more speaking, more keynote speaking. I've been working with actually Coach Jay quite a bit, getting into that industry. He has a company called Eagle Rise Speakers Network. So I've been
I was going to say he's got a whole network of speakers. So.
right, working with them and starting to kind of do more in that industry, outside my box. But again, love it.
Yeah.
And we are planning to do a Warriors Path live event next year, where individuals, if they choose to come to the event, we're going to be teaching a lot of the tools we're talking about, and we're probably going to be mixing in some other things at the event, like some rappelling. And we're going to have a good time.
You're going to get a scuba tank and then do some scuba.
I don't know if we'll do the scuba stuff at the event. I mean, the main thing is we've had a lot of requests for an in-person Warrior Path event, an opportunity to come in person and learn the tools and just go in depth about it. You can only go so far with a book and an archive. And I'm a big believer in mentoring. People will commonly say, "What book are you reading?" And my answer is, well, what mentor am I connected to? I think living information comes out of a good mentor. So you find someone that is doing it and they're doing it better than anyone else, and connect yourself to that person. So this event is kind of based on that idea, an opportunity to get in the room with those individuals that are operating at that level, making those changes, and get to connect to that, and then hopefully get the tools and information you need to make the changes yourself.
Are you looking to do that in Georgia?
Oh, you know what? Actually, we're still in the works, but we're looking at potentially getting a location around Chattanooga. We wanted a spot where we could find a good location for some of the extracurricular activities, but still be within 30 to 40 minutes of an airport. Okay. And Chattanooga is amazing. What they have, wilderness, and available cliff faces.
I was going to suggest Murfreesboro.
It's a possibility.
Right outside of Nashville. Have it in Murfreesboro. You don't have to worry about all the traffic. There's all kinds of restaurants, and there's a range.
Take a look at that.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that's a little outside my box. If
I can help with logistics, let me know. I'd be happy to help. And of course, Royal Range. You got Royal Range up there too. So
yeah, we just recently, made the decision to do it and started cutting the team loose and saying,
gotcha.
Okay, you can go do the research, start bringing the information back, and let's start seeing what we got to do.
Well, I hope that happens. Hope that comes to fruition with you guys. That sounds like it'd be an awesome course. Now you got the one we were talking about Royal Range. You got that coming up the end of this month. The 31st, I think it is.
Yeah,
August
31st and the 1st. I think we're going to do one on that Sunday as well.
Okay. Are those full, or can people still sign up to those?
I think there's still space available, and if you're looking to get involved with that, you can get in touch with the range, and they can get you registered for it and set up.
There's a link on your website there too, and it takes them to the Royal Range site.
Yes,
directly. So you guys can go to his website. There's a little thing there, and don't be surprised if you see me there. I'm going to try my best to be there.
That'd be awesome.
That would be. That would
Yeah,
be.
man. Great.
I would enjoy it. I think I've never had any knife training or anything, so
That's okay.
I may just sit back and watch. But
that is okay too. We take all levels. I've had guys go through my events sitting in a chair.
yeah. But Alan, I greatly appreciate you taking time to be on. It's a pleasure to have you, and I would love to get you back, man, because there's so much more that I'd like to talk to you about.
Absolutely, anytime. I had a blast.
Well, I'm glad. I'm glad you enjoyed it, man. We try to have fun here. So, Leadheads, go check him out. Go to his website. Go to his Instagrams. Follow him. It's the grams was Sifu Alan Baker, SIFU Alan Baker. Look for his books on Amazon, and maybe we can turn your story, your life. You've got a very interesting life. So we even talk about some things that I wanted to talk about. It'd make a great movie, I think. So,
wow, that'd be cool.
Yeah, it would be. That would be cool. But always, Leadheads, make sure you go and support those that sponsor the show. All of our sponsors use those discount codes at Mission First Tactical, at SEAL1, at Firebird Targets, at Lockdown, at Cracking Cases, at Factory 47, ASP USA. Use the codes. You've heard them in the other shows. They'll be flashing up on this video, so you'll see the codes there. And if you don't use them, we're going to lose them. Next episode of the AK Corner, I'm going to give you details on the Hell Puppy that we're going to be giving away. Their 7-inch AKM AK-47 pistol that they've got out now. We're going to be giving away that in September. So I'll give you the details on how you guys can get involved to win that Hell Puppy. So, Leadheads, appreciate everybody, all the support that you've given us. Again, if you aren't subscribed and you're listening, hit the subscribe button because it does so much to help us in those analytics on the social medias, comment on the posts that we leave. I didn't do a giveaway. I usually do a giveaway, Alan, for our people who participate in our questions that I pose. But I'll make it up next episode, Leadheads. So until then, Leadhead, as always, keep your loved ones close.
And keep your fist and your firearms even closer.
There you go. Fisticuffs, baby. Now, do you teach ball it up or do you do the ha?
Both.
She said she gave me like that thing.